And Welcome to the City of Palatka Budget Planning Meeting on August 7th, 2023. What a complicated to order. Invitation is Pastor Mulberry there. Okay, Pastor Mulberry, please, invitation.
Good evening. Father, we thank you again for this day and certainly for your love and kindness. We thank you, God, for the multitude of your tender mercy. As we come together again, God, for the business of the city, we pray for the directions and guidance and instructions by your hand. We pray, God, that in all our ways that we would acknowledge you, that you will give directions in all that we do. We thank you now, God, for your goodness and for your kindness. Continue to bless the progress of the city as we look to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Commissioner Campbell, you please lead us.
Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Prince, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones. Mayor Correa.
Present.
All members present and accounted for, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Could you please read the numbers?
The commissioners, Tammy McCaskill, Will Jones, Rufus Borum, and Justin Campbell, you are hereby notified that a special called workshop of the Palatka City Commission is continued from July 21st, 2023, will be held on August 7th, 2023 at 4:30 at City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida. The purpose of the workshop is to discuss the budget of fiscal year 2023 to 24. Govern yourselves accordingly. Roberta M. Correa, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment. Any at the doorway and please limit your comments to 3 minutes and provide your name and address for the record. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll move right along to the agenda item. Fiscal year 2023-24 budget presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just some housekeeping items here. So if all of you have this sheet, I just want to make sure. If you don't, we'll make some copies for you real quick. Commissioner Campbell needs one. Okay, let's just get all the copies.
They got some conduct here.
Okay. Thank you. So while they're getting that for you, this basically is a table of contents. You'll notice this is the order that we're going to go in the presentations, and then there's a page number that corresponds to your budget workbook so that you can easily find the departmental budget. All right, now that we all have that, we're just going to pick up where we left off last time, and that is on the building and zoning budget. So that's all.
Before we go,
Yes, sir.
Were there not anything that we needed to go back and address that we did not necessarily cover? Because I know there was some missing information that we requested with regards to some of the other ones that had presented that we didn't have complete budget information on. So I just want to ensure that there's nothing that we need to go back and revisit and give them the same opportunity that those that are going to go before them have to clear up anything that they need to clear up.
Thank you for that question. It's one of the ones, some things that I asked for from Chief Taylor, and he provided that for me. I don't know if he provided it for anyone else, if you all needed it, but I did receive what I asked for from Chief Taylor, so thank you.
Could it be shared with? Well, yeah, thank you. Could it be shared with the entire commission?
That's what I asked, I didn't know if you did.
Well, specifically, I think we want
No, we didn't.
to call the question or the information requested, so we know if we got it as well.
So I'm sorry, I was conferring with the city attorney, but I know of two items that we could potentially call police department back up for. One was more detailed information on the roof and HVAC renovations. And then Ms. Thomas pointed out, just making sure that you had the year-to-date expenses on both of those departments, which you do, it's in that budget workbook.
I don't mean to prolong this, and I would want to give every opportunity. I would like to give every department head the opportunity, the same opportunity. So I request that we start from the beginning.
We can do that. Chief Taylor?
Could you tell me if the clicker's up there? Any change form?
And just another point of clarification before we start, will we be doing the decision units as they present, or will we be doing them all in one lump sum?
So you should see the decision units in the presentations. It's better if we consider them as you're having departmental discussions. So I'd recommend that you kind of flip back and forth and look at that table on the front, because it will tell you the departmental units.
So for the sake of time, I figured, did y'all need me to go back through the stats and just the general information of that?
Can you highlight what Commissioner McCaskill asked you so that we could have same information?
Yeah, I gave everyone this. It should have had all the information y'all were asking about in there.
That's why he shared everything.
It's in the book.
No, I got mine from Cap,
Chief Branch.
Chief.
Well, I don't have it, so that's what I'm asking. And it shouldn't be that way.
I gave you one there. I don't know that it's in there. I did give you one at the end of that last meeting. However, I do have an extra. Yes. So that's just a little more in depth. Here we just tried to capture the highlights. So this is just kind of what's been going on in the fire department. We talked about last time. We've gotten a couple of grants, as you can see at the bottom. And then some of the plan review funds and stuff that have come in. We had about 46 plus on meeting with the public for fire safety teaching and stuff, and extinguisher training.
I asked about three fire safety inspectors. I asked about the grant,
Yes, ma'am. So
asked about what was
on that,
included.
we had some further discussion.
Yeah,
And so what we'd like to really push for this year is to try to get the administrative assistant for the Fire Prevention Bureau. And I just wanted you guys to be aware that we're gonna need these other people in positions coming up with all the growth. So if we can look at that one position, that would really help this department. Really kind of revamp the Fire Prevention Bureau with our inspections, plan review, capturing the inspection money, making sure that they're happening every year like they should be. Help him stay organized, because he's still having to do the plan review and then go do the inspections. And so if we had someone that could help him with the paperwork and writing letters, sending stuff out and making sure his schedule is on track and that he's together with that, I think it'll really add some organization there and help us capture all the money that we think we've been missing through the years.
and my question is specific to when he asked for the amount that you asked for and what was included in that.
So that would be 39,000 for her, for that position. And
39.9.
It's on the
I
decision.
saw
units summary.
another. Where is it?
What was included in it.
39.
that would include some basic uniforms and a laptop, computer, that sort of stuff. Pretty basic for that office position. And then, as we moved into these are the major priorities, we're going to continue to recruit the same way we have, looking at a few other options. I talked it through with the manager about trying to maybe possibly hire people and then send them to school. I think this is going to help our local people, because that's what we've heard, is that that's a great scholarship opportunity. However, I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my car payment. So if you're going to school 5 days a week, it's hard to do that. And so we're hoping that maybe this will get us there. And after speaking with the chief, a couple of different chiefs in Alachua County who have been doing this for about 7 years, they've kind of come to this conclusion where it's better to hire them and get them through. I'm sorry, if I moved ahead too quick.
Yeah, can we go back to the,
Go back to the salary.
Back to the salaries for the proposed. Okay.
I think we talked about this 3 vacancy positions and.
Right, so we were hoping that, we have 3 positions open right now. But we know that we're gonna need the growth. So we're looking for 3 more in the future.
And asking for 6 new positions. Right there.
Right, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the amount we asked for those. 6 new positions.
They should be on the presentation I gave you. Let me see if I can find it.
And that-
Well, I said you,
You're right here in the computer.
Yeah, I believe it was.
And what, and that's, I'm going back over what I asked for and what was included. Kind of highlight that again.
Yes, ma'am. So the deputy chief, I believe, was 134. That included an $80,000 salary, plus whatever benefits that finance would add later. That also had a truck, uniforms, iPad. Those,
So benefits were included in
they
that.
were not included. No, that's without. That's the truck. The truck is what adds so much there. The salary would be at a chief's position.
80,000, right? That's what-
Salary.
Yes, sir. It'd be a salary, it'd be 40 hours. 40 hours a week.
But the salary does include the benefits, correct?
It does not. So
Okay,
it's
so
not
we
on the
need to
page.
add-
What you have on the page is just
The base
the
salary.
position, the truck, uniforms and that. I'd have to get those from finance. And
Right,
I don't know that they can actually even be accurate because they don't know what insurance they're gonna pick. And those sorts of things, but they could get much closer than I can.
it can be projected.
Yes,
But my thing is, when we submit stuff and we have to go and piece it together, that's not a real good picture. When we're submitting things, we need to see the number. We need to see the number that it's going to really call for a position.
and it should be in that.
The breakout can be,
Got the
yeah,
highest one.
yeah, so it's almost like, I just don't like surprises when it comes to, we say we're gonna add a position, here's what it costs, but it's gonna cost us more. If we just say, yeah, we'll approve that, it's gonna cost us more. So it'll be way different if we approve 80,000 and it turned out to be 115, 120, that's a big difference.
Well, I think about 50% is gonna be your general number, but that's not gonna be an exact.
And just to be, also to be clear, there is a rank of like priority for positions as to which are most needed right now. I think also, as I understood, Chief Taylor was projecting for the future as well. So there are some things he has a greater need for, the department has a greater need for now. The example of the deputy chief of operations was rated, was ranked 4. So that's kind of down the line. He's just giving us a heads up. So we need more of that information. I agree. But there are 2 positions that are ranked 1, and I think those would be the priority to have all the information for this year if we were going to give them consideration.
Yes, but I would say that the packets I gave you, that information is in
It's
there,
in there.
but the benefits are not.
Right,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. So with the firefighters, I think it was 165 plus whatever benefits, and then you'd have uniforms, but that's 3 firefighters, that's 1 for each shift. So I just wanted you guys to have that heads up that we see all this growth coming, we're gonna need that. But if we did get just the administrative assistant this year, I think that would be a great head start and it'd give us an idea of whether or not we really need a deputy chief or whether or not we need another inspector. But looking at the information and the stats that we're looking at, we think we could use that help.
I do believe, Madam Finance Director was wanting to speak.
Oh, yes, I wanted to make sure that it's understood that in the budgeting, we did include the benefits as well for these new positions. So whenever you decide, whatever you decide, it will impact the budget with the related benefits as well. So for instance, like how that 80,000 is in here now, if you say no, then what comes out is 7.65% for FICA, you know, the pension part for fire, is it the 19 or the 30.8? It's 30.8, and then also the retirement, which is about 20%. So
Right.
all of that will actually come out if it's not approved.
Right, I understand that, but thing with it, I just wanted to see.
Oh, to see the fully loaded
I
cost.
want to see the number.
So
Okay,
Commissioners and Mayor, I think I just made a note, moving into the second budget workshop, we're going to be updating that decision unit table. We can update those amounts to include the total amount for you.
Right.
That's easy enough.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
okay.
I've got
Thank
that on
you.
our list.
Any other questions right now? Chamber, can you keep going? Thank you.
So the admin assistant, it's gonna be the admin assistant just to one person, because it says the fire marshal.
It's for the fire marshal, for the fire prevention bureau. She'd take care of keeping up with all the inspections, sending out letters to property owners, scheduling his stuff for inspections, scheduling the on-duty crews who do inspections, and making sure that he's getting to all the meetings and stuff he's supposed to be at.
So
And it would help us with payroll when Rebecca's out, with all kinds of other stuff. Would be someone to fill in.
So, and this may be, pardon me if it seems a little elementary, but what is the function of the fire marshal on a day-to-day?
So he goes and reviews plans. So he'll review the plans, then he'll have to do everything that he reviewed. He has to go verify it's being done at the construction site when the contractors call for it. He also organizes all of the annual inspections, passes those out to shifts, and he does daycares, restaurants, high occupancy places, and any of our contracts that people look at. So it just gets to where it's pretty overwhelming for one person to do. And then take on the annual inspections and all the training that goes with it as well. He has to train every year. He has to keep updating that training into, CEU every year.
And I think in part, it's also the anticipation of future growth, that there'll be more for the fire marshal to do as time goes on.
Absolutely. And if we keep growing, we're looking at more and more plants. When you look at, I think the numbers were in one of these reports that I did. From 19, we were bringing in $10,000, and now we're up to 30 something. And that seems to be the trend. The last 2 years has been 30 something thousand. We seem to be on target for that now. So he's getting tied up in plan review a lot because of the new construction.
So you're saying the revenue that he brings in for doing that is like 30,000 a year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's for plan review and construction inspections. Then we have the annual inspections, which they pay when they do their BTRs and when they renew their business license.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions at the moment? Okay, thank you.
So I'd just like to make a few comments about the fire department's proposal. And I know this may just be a review for everybody, and I'm gonna try and do this, or Ms. Carter will, on each department. The department total for the fire department is at 3.8 million. That's an increase of just under 600,000 year over year. You may recall at your last meeting, you approved the fire assessment for the year. I think it was a 51%, 49% split. So the general fund balance of what you're having to fund this proposed budget is approximately 1.8 million. So I want you guys to hear these numbers, because when we get to the end of this, I'm going to kind of give you another spiel about where we stand globally with the entire city budget. And when it comes to these decision units, the conversation you just had is helpful because we can kind of get a feel for what you support. If there's something that you specifically support or don't support, please tell us. This is the first budget workshop. we can make some adjustments as we move to the second budget workshop. And there are alternatives to some of these decision units. And we're prepared to present some of those alternative scenarios.
Let me ask for clarification purposes, and I may not be the only one that have this question, but as far as the rank, is it ranked amongst that department, their rank, or so? And it's ranked, like I said, is it ranked amongst their department solely, or?
Yes, the
Individual.
departmental rank, it wasn't like a department head getting together and doing a combined ranking.
Generally, for new positions, the city manager really normally, would work with the department head and make determinations. So with all of these that's been pushed forward, do you think that all of those are something that we need to consider this year?
So I think it's important to consider all of them. So yes, to need to consider, no to can we afford all of these and do they fit your priorities? So that last statement is what I'm looking to get from you is, as you look at these departments and you see the department fund expense total, keep in mind as to where you want to see your tax dollars allocated. What do you want to see accomplished? One thing we don't have here, which I think Ms. Carty's working on, we'll probably have it by the next cycle, is a pie chart just showing how you're allocating those tax dollars. You can see a percentage. Used to be in the budget brief, but we're going to have something very similar. So I'm prepared between the first workshop, Commissioner Borland, and the second workshop, to kind of go through these with the department heads and make recommendations on what's needed and what's realistic. But right now, I'd like you to hear all of them from the department
Right,
heads.
yeah, yes, I understand that, but I'd like to at least want to hear it. But
I think if we,
I would not want to be a person that says, okay, we're gonna cut this, and cut that. With the justification and then with recommendation, those kind of things will help guide the decision.
I can tell you where I would be between budget workshop 1 and 2 right now, and you can tell me how you feel about this as a whole. When it comes to the fire department budget, unfortunately, you've got budget constraints because a large majority of their revenues are derived from the general fund. Right now, you need to come up with about 1.5 million in cuts in your general fund budget just to balance and have adequate reserves. A little under 500,000 of that is a transfer to the airport fund to balance it. So, we've got to come up with 1.5 million. So when it comes to this budget, I would be working with Chief Taylor to see if we can't afford a full-time administrative assistant, trying a part-time administrative assistant for a year, and knowing that those other positions are going to come online as we see population growth and we see additional ad valorem tax coming on in future years. But the reality of it for this year is we can probably afford a part-time administrative assistant.
Thank you for that.
Anything else that you think?
Oh, no, I was just looking at the total positions for total proposed new positions at 923, 953. I was just looking at that. Pretty much a million. That's a million for all of the positions. Now, again, this is not the whole roll-up number, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay. All right. I just seen total proposed, okay. All right. We keep rolling.
You good?
Thanks.
You disappeared for a minute. Yes. Please.
All right.
There you go.
Again, our achievements for last year, 22-23, on the block camera, 800 megahertz radios, staffing levels, additional police service aid, the Palatka software, and Sarah GPS system, a reaccreditation, and our improved community relations. Notable operational changes and goals for 23-24 changes, additional police service aid, and implementing new software to streamline internal affairs and field training, youth support tracking and reporting. Our goals continue to find ways to reduce crime through the deployment and technology, proactive policing, and building community trust. Operating budget, our proposed, as you can, our proposed, as you can see, there's an increase. The increase is only in our notable changes area, the gas increase for 10,000 and the special police trust fund increase by 10,000. Again, the gas increase was a recommendation of our previous finance director as far as what the economy was going to look like. And then our special police trust fund was a different manner in how we pulled down our seizure fund to be able to purchase new equipment, which has to be approved by the commission. They wanted to be a line item for that. So overall, without that being put in, we have no increase in our total. And that goes forward with staffing levels. Our staffing levels will remain the same going into next year. There's no change in our staffing levels. Our capital budget was our area of discussion last time, which consisted more of the proposed total and the notable changes of the purchase of the vehicles and the roof repair. What I handed out to you was the engineering scope for the roof repair. And we do have, as Commissioner Jones requested, Dale is prepared to talk about the scope of work. Dale, if you could go into the scope of work.
Sure. In the handout that we just handed to you, you've got a breakdown of different sections of the police department roof. With estimated ages and years. And very back, the last page gives you the cost breakdown, roughly $240,000. And I mentioned in the last meeting that the title of the budget for the capital is really more than just the roofing. It's assessing the air conditioning, the structural issues, the gutters, and the building envelope, windows and such that are leaking. When we address the roof, we'll have to remove every bit of the HVAC equipment actually to restore that. At that time, we got several units, we can run the first week that are either failing, will fail soon, or should be replaced due to obsolescence. At that time, it's recommended to accomplish that replacement. Additionally, that scope extends inside when we redo that air conditioning unit. We've got to look at potentially assessing the condition and health of the rest of the ducting and accommodating some other changes that we need to make for accreditation purposes within the evidence structure. So that $400,000 is to accomplish those things. There is a breakdown, I believe. I emailed that to Jonathan and Chief Shaw.
Sure. Yeah. And I can send you a copy of the breakdown as well. I did print out a copy for the review here today.
So again, the scope is removal and replacement of roof that includes engineering and modifications needed associated with the HVAC. We've got penetrations to the roof. Anytime you address those, they come up. Removal and replacement of the gutters, which are currently failing and attributing to some of the envelope issues with water coming into the walls. Sealing of the windows, caulking and joints. We've got significant water intrusion around the windows and penetrations. Removal of the HVAC system. That's a crane to remove that, and then a crane to replace that with the new package units. Redesign of the system. So if we're looking at changing the requirements of that system. You have to go through a test and balance process to make sure that the airflow is correct throughout the building. Actually, you have to circulate it properly that way. And then removal and replacement of any ceilings affected by those alterations. When they're doing the ducting, a lot of those ceiling tiles like in here, they tend to fall apart. They've been leaked on for quite a while. So we anticipate a significant portion of that might be replaced. So we're estimating the roof to come in between $250,000 to $300,000. The gutters are roughly $25,000. The HVAC, which may be reduced because we just did have to do a replacement of one unit. Prior to that replacement, it was roughly $80,000 for all of the equipment, the engineering, and the man hours and labor for it. The ceiling is roughly $20,000. And that's subjective based on what is touched or what has to be replaced based on alterations to the system. Windows, resealing those roughly $10,000, and then the contingency of roughly $15,000.
Did you say windows
Correct.
for the
So
roof?
no, on the outside of the building. So the title on this for the roof replacement, it really needs to extend to a little bit more of exterior envelope as well.
Look like y'all rehabbing the whole building. That's what I like.
And I had my,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. but anyway.
so I think part of that, really trying to explain for the windows is currently right now in my office, if you see, it leaks through the windows and it does through several other areas in the building as well. That's part of where he's talking about the gutters and replacing that. Part of that is caused from over a period of time and it's coming through that area, it's seeping down through the windows and that's where it's leaking inside the building. So I think my overall question is, or my overall concern, and this is something that the commission, we have to talk about because we talked one time before about relocation or possible building or something of that nature with regards to the police department and several other. And it's oftentimes I say it, we talk about things while they're hot, but when they're no longer hot, we kind of tend to put them on the back burner. Personally, I feel that $400,000 is a lot of money to put in a building when we should be really at the forefront of looking at what can we do to make sure that our department is housed in a building that is sufficient to the needs. Aside of the roof, I heard in conversation that there are some other things that you're going to have to take up in order to be compliant with some other organizations, correct? Or other accreditations?
It's for accreditation. So part of our evidence standards require us to make sure we have things secure as far as evidence. So if we're replacing the roof, we still have to have the evidence area secure all the way around.
So my question to the city manager is, when was the last time that we revisited the proposal of a new location, either newly constructed or something that's already existing that could possibly house?
So we've talked about it a number of times at the staff level, commissioners and mayor. Public Works is kind of a good touchstone because you've got, the total project budget, we've estimated the debt service. So in talking with Chief Shaw about their space requirements and knowing what the cost would be to construct a building like that, you're probably looking at having an annual debt service payment of about $300,000 over a 20-year term to build a new police or public safety complex. They're building now, the term that everybody likes to use is it's functionally obsolescent, which basically means that it doesn't meet their needs. The only other free space that we have, I think everyone is aware, there's an excess of, I think, 25,000 square feet at the Jenkins Gymnasium. And conversations or discussions with the school board regarding the rest of the campus failed to result in an agreement bring forward to the commission. I know of no other facility right now that's on the market that would meet their space requirements.
Well, I think that we should really take in consideration, really going hard at looking at some other options. Again, I think $400,000 is a lot to put in on a roof in a building that we know is not sufficient for them. Again, this is the time where we talk about these tough decisions or we talk about these things. But again, I would like for us to bring this back to the forefront and actively work towards a resolution overall versus us putting something into something that it's still not meeting the needs.
Real quick, if I could just add to that and let you guys deliberate. If we were to do that, I would still work to include a debt service payment in the budget. So that you were prepared to act on something if it became available. So we would still be looking to include something to the tune of $300,000 within the budget as a recurring expense, just as an FYI.
Understand.
Yeah, I would think we would really not have any other option. If we really are going to move forward and we really need, we have to take that step of having funding there to be ready when it's available. Commissioner Brown?
Yes, appreciate that. Yeah, I think again, I think we talked about it a number of times, but what we want to do, we talked about moving to the hall and the public works. So that we move around with different things and we talked about even the police department way back when. Now, how old is the police building structure?
Built in the 1960s, early 1960s.
Early 1960s. And I think I had reports and also the number of times that the roof had been repaired. Do we have a number on that? I'm just trying to figure out how much money we've invested so far.
So we have a number of different contracts that we called out for repair work, and we're still working on that number.
Okay.
Part of the problem consisted of it being either air conditioning trouble for the air conditioner leaking or the actual roof. And a lot of times Arctic Air did repair the roof, but actually at no cost by using the tar. The other times that payment was made for the roof to be repaired, we're attempting to pull that up for your time frame. I do have a printout, but the printout hasn't been all put together because we're still trying to sort that out. But I do hope to get that to you soon.
Appreciate it. And you know, the number of repairs, the building is functionally obsolete from what I'm hearing. We want to put 400,000 into a roof for a functionally obsolete building. It's going to cost way more than that, and just doing that, I don't think it makes any sense. So again, we want to make sure we do everything we can to start looking at another facility for the PD so that we can get them in and maybe look at other departments as well. That's why I say we want to look at all the buildings that we have to see how we can better utilize those facilities to make sure our staff is able to work in better conditions and functioning, everything functioning.
I would agree, but we probably need to set some timelines to keep again, as I understand, it's been discussed for several years now.
I've been asking for this, I've been
I'm not saying,
asking
I'm not.
several times. I mean, we need to get a master of all of the buildings that we have. Understand what the problems that we have and ask for a strategy to say, okay, well, hey, what is the best how can we best utilize the facilities that we have or look at alternatives? That's what I asked for.
That's why we went this direction with getting the engineering to get the scope, to see exactly what was going on with the building, the condition of the roof as well. So we'd have a better idea because again, this conversation comes before us every year. It's not a new conversation.
Right, but it's time for us to make some decisions. We got to be able to have some direction. We're asking city manager to give us a little bit of direction to be able to help guide us through this process so that we can address these things. But, you know, spending money on that building like that, it just, I think it's throwing away taxpayer dollars, in my opinion.
I think the importance of doing something for the roof is a necessity, and I agree. As far as looking at different options and looking at a new building, we approach that in a manner every time we bring up this conversation, but then we end up not getting the roof done. So I hope that in looking at this, we really do put a timetable on it so that we can actually do something for it because it continues to get worse.
Right. We have buildings that there's options. So I've been talking to city manager and other staff about options. So that came up during that time.
But I think with the options and going back to supporting what Mayor stated, we have to give a timeline or we have to give, although we want them to give us direction, we have to give them direction in order to for them to know what it is that we desire of them.
How much time, if I give a timeline, it would be yesterday. We need it yesterday.
So my question to staff would
right.
be, what do you think is a realistic timeline to get us some information with regards to moving forward with the possibilities of relocating the police department to whatever, however, whenever?
So I can answer that, but I'd like to confirm what the deliverable would be. So just give me a minute to just explain what I would expect that to typically look like. And if I get some head nods, I'll tell you in another time. So something like this would be a simple report. We would utilize an engineer and an architect. We would probably also reach out to our real estate consultant that is on continuing services just to see what's on the market. And we would evaluate the existing buildings that we know that aren't at max utilization. They would look at those to see what it would take cost-wise to basically construct or renovate those for their use. There'd also be some notations in there as to, the utilization of that space and its location, and is it best suited for their use? And we would look at some alternatives that are on the market, be it land that we would have to acquire, be it land and buildings that we'd have to acquire, or existing land. Maybe a scenario would be constructing next to their current location and then demolishing the existing police department. So you'd have anywhere from 4 to maybe 6 scenarios so that you would be able to say, this is the scenario we want to move forward with, use this existing building, or no, build a new facility over here, or acquire this building and renovate it for their use. That would take, is that kind of what you guys would expect to see?
So we would have to see the scenarios before we can put a timeline.
It'd be a very similar to report that you got when we were looking at the old TD Bank building downtown for City Hall. I'm seeing some head nods.
Yeah.
It's about 3 months.
So in the meantime, the building gonna be.
But I know we would probably still patch it as we could.
I do have.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You got it.
You said, something that we can save about $80,000 because you replace an HVAC.
We may reduce that $80,000 price by $10,000 to $15,000. We just spent roughly $1,000 in replacing one unit that failed. They had no air conditioning.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones, thank you.
Just in the spirit of giving direction. I would like to see the roof repaired. Because it's rather the building is obsolete, but that's the building that they're in right now, and they have to be functional right now for them to do the job that we need. However, all of the repairs don't have to take place. So what I asked last time was, what would it take just to repair the roof to what we need? And I look at these pictures and I've said this about several buildings. There's a matter of upkeep, because when you look at those gutters, they're full. We haven't been cleaned. And, some of the stuff is maintenance, building maintenance on all of our buildings. So I don't know, and I don't want to point fingers, but somebody have to be responsible for that. Or we're going to have problems in another building and then another building here in the near future. So I think that's another thing that needs to be put in place. Facility maintenance, so that we don't run across this. And I agree with Chief Shaw. I remember we put it in the budget to have that roof repaired, and for whatever reason it wasn't repaired 2 years ago, wasn't repaired last year, and now we got to have a larger build. And as it relates to moving to a different location, I think first thing is count the cost. A debt service for the next 20 years to the citizens of the city of Palatka. I think we gotta be cautious with that. And the reason why I say that is the taxpayers in the city are already double taxed by the county, and the new bond that that was voted in the last time, that the taxpayers has taken on that burden. I don't think we should be cautious of doing it, and just say that. I just want to put that out there. We really should be cautious in the taxes that we're going to, burden that we're going to put on the taxpayers, but that will be a 20-year commitment. So let's think about that before we talk about just getting shiny new things.
I agree, but then again, we have a duty to make sure that we have crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and have all the information so that,
No, I agree with that.
so yeah, we have to be cautious, but then again, we don't want to cut it at the beginning when we can go ahead and get the information presented to not only ourselves, but to the citizens of the city.
Yes.
And I mean, again, we want to make sure that not only our citizens are aware, but we want to make sure that we have a duty to make sure that our employees are in an environment that is safe, that is conducive to working properly and what they need it for. So we're gonna be cautious. We've been doing it since we sat on it on this dais, each one of us. But again, we have to get the information. If we never get the information, we can never make a decision. So once we get that information, then we can err on the area of caution. And if we need to move forward, but right now we need that information.
I agree with you 100%. So I wasn't saying not get the information.
I didn't say that. I was just making my point.
Get the information, then we can err on the side of caution, like you said. In the meantime, we're talking about fixing a roof, and we still got to be cautious and putting money into something that we may be relocating as well, so.
But also, we are trying to plan for the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And if we don't have a plan or anticipate a cost for this project, we don't know it yet, I realize that, but do we have to earmark a certain amount to be prepared to move forward?
I mean, that would be the best approach, you know, knowing that you're asking for a report, you don't yet know which direction you want to go. We would most likely earmark, to use your term, some funding so that you had options if and when you decided on a direction.
Just keep in mind too, that we got a $1.5 million deficit.
We do understand that.
Right, I just want to reiterate.
Just to bring up to your attention, the figure that was discussed for earmarking is fairly close to what just the roof replacement was estimated at, between $250,000 and $300,000.
Mr. Jones, we want to say something?
If I could, there's another capital item within the police department budget, and I just want to kind of present some options to you. It is for the vehicle purchases. So we know that we have these vehicle purchases coming up. Chief Shaw is working with his staff and Ms. Tucker to try and get some USDA grant applications in the queue. I think most of you are aware, if we get those grants, it pays for 50% of those purchases because these are deemed community facilities. So that's one of the things that we're going to be endeavoring to do to try and bring that cost down. The other thing is if we have to look at areas to cut, we can still make these purchases and put these vehicles on lease. So we can bring that 375 allocation down significantly. So that's something that Chief Shaw and Ms. Cardy and I are all kind of watching as we move through this process.
Any further questions of Chief Shaw? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Walsh?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Walsh, Plan Director. I wanted to go over some of our achievements from last year. The large project reviews and board approvals, for example, Wawa, Longhorn, we've talked about these before, cottages in St. John's. We adopted a capital improvement element, impact fees. Crystal Cove RV Resort was approved. Silver Bay Mobile Home Park will be coming through to the planning board in September and then to you subsequently in, I'm sorry, it'll actually be coming to you at the end of August. We've also had numerous annexations and rezonings. what I'm noticing in our workload is that there are larger, more complex projects. There's some that are coming, that are in the works that I'm not ready to talk about right now. But there are some residential projects and some commercial projects that are bigger in scope and scale. We have experienced since 2022, each year an 18% increase in workload in the cases that we've been processing. We also hired and are training 2 replacement employees that we had before, a planning clerk and a planner 1. We also approved and awarded a continuing professional planning and inspection services RFQ. But we are back to the caseload, though. We are on track to meet or exceed that same amount of cases in 2023. So, as I mentioned, it's just a broad statement of the workload. This year, I would like to look at using consultants to begin visioning and comprehensive plan updates. This is something that we talked about before. We already have $75,000 in the budget currently for that comprehensive plan update, but the costs have gone up considerably, and I'm requesting an additional $75,000 for that. I know that the county just awarded a contract for $225,000 to update their contract. But that is for the county. I'd also like to request the use of consultants to do stormwater management site inspections. It's something that takes up probably a full day every week of my time, because there's nobody else in the county that does it. Or is certified to do it. I am the only certified stormwater management inspector, which kind of really surprised me when I learned that. We are continuing to train our staff, our new hires, working on that. We are resolving the plotter and scanner issues that we had, where the intern that we had over the summer was very productive in doing some of the scanning for us for the documents over the annex. We are improving our processes and managing our caseloads. And I'd really like to work on getting links available so that people can make payments online for their projects and their applications. These consultant costs are scalable. They're not a fixed cost for like such as hiring another employee. That would be a fixed annual cost. But using a consultant, you can, we don't have to necessarily do the whole comp plan in 1 year. We could start the process and then move on. Okay. So right now, our current total is 151,000 roughly for operating budget, and the proposed total will be 284,000. So those changes, notable changes, are the large increase in professional services usage, legal advertising costs, and schooling and conference costs. Some of that schooling and conferences is actually rolled into the memberships for software for things that we'd like to be able to do to help improve our processes and make them more efficient. Our current staffing list is 3 positions, planning director, planner 1 part-time, and a planning clerk. There are currently no current contracts for services. The proposed staffing list remains the same, except that we have to end up with a full-time, maybe another part-time planner 1 to make that a equivalent of a full-time. And contracts for services would be again for the visioning and comprehensive plan update and the site and stormwater inspection. Answer any questions? Questions?
Yeah, statement, that's a substantial, that's like 87% increase in your budget.
53, sir.
53?
Yes.
That's quite a, is that what it is? It's not what I can.
It is substantial.
And so the question that I had is, or I have is, well, like an additional staff would help you And could they be assigned or trained to also do the comp plan or to work on the comp plan and help in the various other tasks?
Comprehensive plan update is a huge task.
I can understand.
It's more than a single person can reasonably do.
So what have we been doing in the past?
We haven't done any.
It hasn't been done.
It's just been neglected.
Our comprehensive plan has not been updated since 2008.
Wow.
It's been ignored.
Yes, we've had, yeah, just,
Right.
and then we had inconsistent with, people who left the position or part-time or whatever, you know, so that she's trying to move it forward.
So because of this neglect, it's now come back to kind of point us in a bit particular.
Good question and better answer.
Please, no, Steph, this is just a question on that,
Ma'am,
why doesn't the county have anybody there attempting to become certified in this process? That they could take on some of this burden? Question, it's just a question.
I would have to
You
research
know,
that.
that
I
answer
believe
is
it.
yeah, I get it.
But you only do it for the city, right?
Yes, sir, I only do it
Yeah.
Yeah.
for our projects in the city, yeah.
Okay.
But it's, I go out there to do it properly. You're supposed to inspect once a week and after every 10 days rainfall.
Okay. So
Wow.
That requires me going out there, taking pictures, driving the site or walking the site, depending on how big it is or if I can get around in it. And then, contacting the site contractor to say, hey, it's this, that, and the other.
Yeah, some of that can be fairly quick.
No,
In Florida district.
yeah.
So are you planning on hiring someone to do that job? Specifically, are you hiring?
Under the professional services contract.
So again, that's gonna be a contract. deal.
Contract, yes.
But wouldn't it be a better investment to hire someone, train them, and they'll be a more valuable asset to the city, actually to the entire community, but specifically to the city. And I know you said the sliding scale on the contracts, but if we had someone in house like that, that'll help us tremendously, wouldn't it?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay, so tell me.
Well,
pros and
my
cons.
concern is that we have, in this year, when we lost both staff members in the planning department, we found it very difficult to find qualified applicants. People that were
So
and trained in planning, they didn't generally have any planning experience.
And I know we're lucky to find you, but I think if we hire some people or a person, when we train them up, we have significant money in training. But I would hate to contract these folks and it's for a period of time. And I mean, I don't know, I'm just giving my opinion for a period of time, but someone could do that. She said every week, we couldn't employ someone to do the same thing.
Yeah,
Trainers.
Commissioner, very good points. So let me add something that may kind of clear this up a little bit.
Sure.
Typically, these professional services contracts like this are on a utilization basis or an as needed basis only. So you would see a lot of those expenses actually match to a corresponding revenue. Now, what Ms. Walsh has talked to me in the past about is kind of what you're talking about. The best of both worlds would be having some professional services budget. So if they got inundated with a lot of applications or a large site plan or comprehensive plan amendment associated with a large development, they'd be able to bring in those outside qualified resources, but at the same time, hiring that other full-time planner position. We've got Casey Cheek now, great, new part-time planner is going for his master's, and having that internal capacity as well. But unfortunately, we're in a position where we can't get both immediately. So we kind of have to plan and then just, throttle up or throttle down based upon the demands on the department and what she can get as far as, candidates for the position. So we're still looking for that other position, to have a full-time planner and a part-time planner. but also keep a little bit of money in professional services. The large chunk of that, $118,000 increase. I mean, if you look at her request, all of it is pretty much in that professional services line. It's the comp plan amendment.
And we just have to get that.
Yeah, and we already started conversations with, they call themselves the DC now instead of Department of
Commerce.
There you go, instead of Department of Economic Opportunity. There's some funding opportunities out there through some planning grants, and we started a conversation with Beth Payne at North Florida Regional Planning Council. They can't do the whole thing for us, but they may be able to kind of defray some of that cost and run some of the public workshops and public input process to bring that cost down. She's just giving you the worst case scenario.
Scenario, but just to know that we.
You did a good
have
job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Great job. Thank you.
So if I can make a quick comment, please, I'm Judd Bell, I chair the Airport Advisory Board, and on behalf of your Airport Advisory Board, which consists of Mr. Brown, Mr. Elaine McLean, Melissa Miller, Ken Johnson, Dana Jones, myself, we just want to say thank you for letting us serve you. And the 28th day is a wonderful corridor into our community, both from the commercial side, the military side, as well as the private sector and recreational side. So there's quite a important part it plays in our community, and we thank you for letting us serve you in this capacity. We're very blessed to have been working with Ms. Stoms. She's been wonderful and helped us out a lot. We're real happy with Jonathan, the depth of knowledge that he brings both to the city and the airport to our board. And also, of course, we love you. You're doing a wonderful job in our opinion. And we love the depth of commitment. So, we're very honored to be part of this process. And any further thing we can do, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you.
Bring those snacks to our meeting that you have with y'all. How about that?
Snickers.
Mayor, commissioners, Fair, thanks. So in year number 2, we're coming close to it. So it certainly feels a lot better than it felt last year this time. But I'm excited. And as the chair mentioned, the airport is unique. Let's be realistic about it. I think part of my responsibility is to help the community, the teammates, leadership understand those sensitivities. So expect some other side meetings and kind of tours and those kind of things to really help you guys to understand, the nature of the airport. I'm not saying we're better, I'm saying we're different. There are some elements of it that we have to be sensitive to and protect ourselves. So we've had a good year so far, and in terms of achievement. One of the key pieces was completing the T hangar facility. So we put it in perspective. We had the ribbon cutting about 2-3 months ago. We have completely leased out all units. So that's additional revenues. I will be frank with you. My approach to the budget year, as well as not just operating, but also capital, is to have a balance. Have projects that are generating revenues, but also how do we enhance operational services? There's 2 components for us, financial and operational compliance, but there's also a safety and security aspect of it. So our achievements this year was focused on both of those aspects, revenue generation and the prep for our annual inspection, airfield inspection, as well as prep for our fueling operation, as well as prep for our automated weather observation system, which essentially is our weatherman. It provides 24/7 real-time atmospheric information for the pilots using the airport. So we successfully completed those inspections, and, you know, when the FAA show up at your field, it's not exactly a stressless thing. But I think it's good to be having something to work from, and 28J provided that to us. Looking forward, as mentioned, the balance here is revenues, operational. You know, we're getting ready to get very busy, and primarily through our capital funding program, which is a godsend. We're looking to enhance access control and security. Essentially, you know, we need to take our security and access at the airport to another level. I don't know the history. All I know is old, it's outdated. And, you know, a lot of folks don't realize, but not everybody is allowed to go on the other side of the fence. Going back to those sensitivities, we have to do a better job of controlling that. Another key point from this list here, I highlight two, but the second key point is something we're looking to do sooner than later, and that is to completely drain our fueling storage tanks. You know, that's critical. That's our lifeblood. So we need to drain it, inspect it, and bring it back online. It's about 8 to 10 year cycle. And, you know, I just think it's ideal time for us to kind of step back, slow down a little bit, and just really look at what we're working with. I don't know what the findings may be. Hopefully, based upon the quality of the fuel so far, the deterioration shouldn't be all that bad. But, you know, we're working towards doing that. Just heads up for you. The third key piece is the feasibility study for the runway extension. So we can talk runway extension, we can, you know, get excited about it, but at the end of the day, we have to do a feasibility study. That feasibility study is going to lay out, you know, what are you really working with? So, you know, I'm excited about it. We have 6,000 feet. A lot of places, for example, Flagler, you know, they're 5,000, you know, so again, that's yet another one of those positive attributes that 28J has, and a lot of people would love to have 6,000, let alone 7. So looking forward to that. So transition into the operating budget. So as stated, my approach was really looking at, let's try to stay flat, but also let's try to learn from some experiences we've had in this year to try to avoid next year in terms of prep costs. So if you notice, there's two pieces here that highlights building maintenance and equipment and field maintenance, okay? So that's a focus area for me. The third impact is adding an additional personnel to the team. So if you recall the projects that I laid out earlier, you know, a lot of those can be tied to this. Some of those projects are revenue generating projects. So the key piece, and we can transition to the team member or proposed team member. I'm not sure if a lot of folks realize, but I say we're different. You know, we don't have the hours that City Hall may have. You know, we're 7 days a week. You know, and you know, I have some experience, but I need some people that, you know, can enhance the current team. And you know, we went down the road last year, and I got 2 out of the one who was missing one or somewhere. But that's fine. I'm coming back. So, you know, we're running 4 10s, and, you know, that can be tough if you don't have enough body to do it. So we're running about from 7:30, 8 o'clock to about 6 p.m. every day. Now, is there an opportunity to look at, you know, modify that a little bit? You know, possibly, but I would tell you, we get busy, and it's like the day of a citation latitude jet come in there, you know, that one person is going to be swamped. 2 people is going to be tough because You need to meet and greet, and you need to service the aircraft, but you also need to cover inside where your other customers are located. So I wanted to kind of come to the table, you know, on a need-based standpoint, as I stated to you last year. I'm asking for what I need. One of these days, I'm gonna come before you and ask you for what I want, but right now, I'm really, you know, I need this, you know. Part of an avenue for us getting through our day-to-day operation is we got one contracted services contract in place. And considering the airport is like airfield, one of the largest pieces or contract in place is the lawn and mooring service. So we have about 700 some acres. If I was like my peer airports, it had to staff for that, including equipment, that would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we pay, you know, an amount that gets us bodies, tractors, equipment, et cetera, coming out, performance-based, keeping the airport in top shape. So, you know, that's a huge plus because that's also a huge cost if you got to cover that in terms of staffing. Any questions so far? Shifting to the capital, just kind of put it in perspective for you. So currently we're at about 3.9. The proposed is about 3.8. I'm providing you with a list of some key projects that's coming up. You know, and like these are, you know, new corporate hangar design. You know, those are revenue generating projects. Those are projects that are geared toward how do we increase revenue here, but also how do we accommodate the additional service that's coming here. The second item is rehabbing the entire area on the west side of the airport. So you're coming to the airport on your right-hand side, that's the west side. So that including the fuel self-serve area, you know, and that's also including taxi lane between all the facilities. These are grant projects, and we're thankful for that. But these are projects that's going to be coming down the pipe, you know, within the next 2 to 3 months in terms of funding and then kicking off construction. And another key project coming up is the obstruction removal. So we've gone through inspections. You know, we've had FAA come in, we have FDOT come in, and they've identified over the years, you know, some areas that really need to be cut back due to growth, natural growth. So there are grant dollars out there for that, and we was able to secure that. So these are projects for the upcoming year, and we look forward to resolving some of these operational issues.
Questions on this one?
You say your current total, you cut it by 140,000.
Pardon me?
Did you drop it back 140-some thousand? Your proposed total is less than your current total.
So you know, I wish I could say I cut it back that amount, but I would tell you that's probably just what we were able to realize this cycle. Okay, so yeah, I couldn't take the credit for it, but you know, that's just the dollars that we're getting.
That's a good job.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr.
I need all the help I can get.
Thank you.
Mr. McNair, I mean, only because we did have a conversation about some tools that you thought you needed in reference to you had some golf carts out there and you talked about replacing. Did you take care of that already, or was that, I mean, you didn't want to put that on your wish list right now?
Well, that's a want. To be honest with you, we have the car. It's serving its purpose for now. So again, if I had to come up with some other needs,
You don't have to. You don't have to, but I know we spoke on it.
Yep.
And I know I saw the condition.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're talking about the professional people that come in and out, you the chair of the board. That was one of the things that it always comes to my mind about the airport.
Representation.
Everything looked good and that did not look good.
No.
And I'm just gonna tell you. So I thought that if you put it in budget, that might have been something that we can consider. You know, doing. But thank you for your budget that you submitted. And I'm like, Commissioner Bourne, I'm pleased to see that decrease.
But, you know, again,
We're gonna watch what they know. Go ahead.
Not,
I wouldn't-
I don't, at that area.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner. Anybody else?
I think Jonathan was gonna say.
Yeah, Jonathan. yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple points. Mr. McNair, thank you. And I made a note about the golf cart. That's something you guys are looking for. We can definitely look at adding that. I did just kind of want to summarize things. Ms. Cardy and I are kind of communicating with our eyes over here. So professional or personnel services actually had an increase of 63%. A lot of that is really just attributed to the step and grade. And some of these increases, this goes for all departments too. When you look at your operating, we've experienced some significant increases, be it electricity and property insurance premiums. So some of these things are unavoidable. Overall, though, Mr. McNair did almost present a balanced operating budget. He's at 5.39%, which was very good. So for operating only, it's a $62,487 increase.
Right.
That decreases because we lump together all the projects and everything. So, Mr. McNair, do you mind just kind of summarizing again your decision units for the benefit of the commission?
Okay, well,
I think there was two of them.
one.
We got five and two.
I see two, it's two there.
Flying.
Okay. So the primary, which is the staff. Okay, so you have myself, full-timer, and I have two full-timers. And what we're doing is we're supplementing full-timers, the team members that are running 410s with part-timers. Now, one of those part-timers is primarily focused on the administration and working with finance, making sure that they're getting what their needs are. To be frank with you, historically, there were a number of other resources in place for the airport team back in the days. I think COVID probably impacted it a whole lot. But realistically speaking, I saw where we needed to have at least a basic support team in place. No one needs to be out there working solo. Okay. And we try to set it up to where the ops person that can meet and greet or jet can also go in there and do a transaction for a t-shirt or paper gas. So we are cross-training, but I cannot attract a seasoned airport person unless it's full-time. Let's be realistic. It's a specialized area, and I need that kind of person that will say, okay, I may take less, but my quality of life can be a little bit better, on this end, So that's the approach with the position itself. Okay. We're going to stay focused on generating revenues because that's the business that we're in. We're focused on how do we maximize our revenues for the airport. The fly-in piece of it, we kind of stepped back when I came on board. With the leadership change at the airport, kind of stepped back and we said, hey, let's kind of pause this and let's get our house in order. Okay. I think it's fair to say the industry has kind of shifted a little bit to where, you can have your fly-in, but you also can have multiple other things, so, and that's really was the approach to try to preserve that, whether that's Taco Tuesdays or whether that's whatever the case may be. But whether it's joint events with some of our customers at the airport, we wanted to preserve our ability to really set some programs up. Multiple programs throughout the community, really drive home the aviation theme to the community in Palatka. People in Palatka shouldn't be asking, is there an airport over there? And believe it or not, I get that question, you know, so, that's really the basis of the approach on the decision units.
And people did really enjoy the flying.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt, without a doubt. And again, it's, we want to preserve.
So are these other two positions that I highlighted, decision unit? Is that what you were pointing out, city manager?
Help me out, Commissioner. He only has two.
Only two was at the very top.
Or, yeah.
You got facility and you got airport.
He only has two.
Yeah.
So just the one position and then the 29.
And the buy-in is supported. by the
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I was seeing that wrong. I thought it was airport, well,
Yeah.
facilities,
Oh,
airport,
okay, no.
yeah. Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
How much is how much the golf cart cost?
Well, I mean, you're not getting an actual golf cart. You're probably getting a Kubota, aren't you? Or a side by side.
5400?
Probably.
No, it ain't the same 5400.
Well, now, the boater and golf cart, two different
Yeah,
things.
they
We talking about golf.
What you look
What would you need?
You need both. You need both. I mean, because I've been out there and seen the conditions, and it's not really one, they need it.
So he needs a golf cart and a boat.
And the boat.
Yeah.
It's the cost.
They need-
It's just add up the numbers. And then it's kind of-
That'd be something else.
I think the city manager is working.
Yeah.
Well, I must thank him because he and I have spent time together over the last week or so. So, again, this process has been totally different than the previous year. So, we're gonna get there.
Yeah, and I want to thank Chair Newfield for being here. I think everyone's aware, the airport is an enterprise fund and, Mr. McNair and the Airport Advisory Board are doing their best to make recommendations to you and try and put it on a course to be profitable. So we're not there yet, but hopefully we can do a little course correction this year.
Absolutely.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Not that.
Okay.
Let me, get my notes here. Oh, there we go. So, I'm just gonna go through these one by one. There's not much changed in these different, budgets, but, first is the commissioner and mayor budget. Some notable things, we have a 5% increase modeled in, for commissioner and mayor salaries. We're still budgeting for approximately 8 interns at 8 weeks. We did have a little bit more in that budget this year. There were a few interns we offered to keep on a little bit longer because they had some projects they were trying to wrap up. None of them could be able to stay on longer. So we're holding steady with that.
Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Before you move forward, this is something that I've wanted to bring, or I have brought to the previous city manager. And more specifically, I think after this cycle of interns that we've had, I would love for us to entertain the idea, and it'll be paying out a little bit more of having year-round interns. And I think that, and we're not looking for an 8-week time frame. We're not, so that all that kind of stuff could be determined if we take it in consideration. I just think it's an opportunity for us to partner with the college or surrounding colleges to find some individuals who are looking for that experience to come in and help offset some of this work that we have. A lot of them say it part-time individuals will benefit their respective departments. Not saying that we don't want to take in consideration their requests, but I think interns will be able to come in and kind of offset and work on those special projects like the scanning. And if you are majoring in that respective field or looking to come in that field, get that hands-on experience. And I think that we could possibly be the catalyst for looking into that and hoping that other municipalities around us take that into consideration and offer more internship opportunities in local government.
We can definitely include that in the next version. I can tell you, I was encouraged from what I was actually, or how I was interacting with the interns and the projects they're working on. And almost every single department head said, I hope we get same quality of intern that we've got in the past 2 years. I think everybody's productivity went up. Everybody was smiling. They're not always smiling. So yeah, we can definitely look at extending the intern year round, maybe doing 2 cycles, 1 short term and 1 long term. So maybe we keep 8 short term interns and we do 2 or 3 long term. How does that sound?
I think it's a great idea.
And I'm thinking, and even just think about some of the interns that started off as interns, but then were graduated to actual employees of the city.
Oh,
So there's,
I wish we would have. kept on board.
so I think there will be a lot of benefits to this, outside of just offering the opportunity for those to have internships. I think it will be beneficial to the city as a whole.
Thank you for that suggestion, Commissioner. I did have one question related to the commissioner and mayor's budget. There's been some conversation about either holding a commissioner's retreat or a team building exercise with department heads. We kind of talked around that. I think both have been suggested. We do sit down typically in a call meeting in September to talk about your priorities at the same time that you talk about your legislative priorities. So I didn't know if that was the intent of the commission or if you were really looking for a team building event with department heads. We can do both, but I'd like to include it in the budget.
I'm looking forward to a team building event with the park head. I think that would be something of the sort.
I would second that.
So if there's nothing further on the commissioner mayor's budget, let's move on to legal.
But I do have something.
Yes, sir.
And looking at that budget, now I'm trying to find because it wasn't like have a heading on every page. So let's go to the salaries. Can we go to the,
So page 9, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So page 9, the budget, let's say 2022 was 119,000. And then it was budgeted for less in 23. But I thought that it was an amount put in there was $75,000 additional. 75. It was more than that, wasn't it?
I thought you talking about the decision.
No, for last time, I mean, you remember there was a amount built in for raises. And then,
So I can talk to the disparity in the numbers.
Yeah, numbers.
2022, say 2023 and 2024. I believe that they had the intern salaries up in that line. So that's not just specifically commissioner and mayor salaries.
there was a $17,000 line in there as an intern. And I asked about, and that last sheet we had, before you guys revised this one,
Mhm.
yeah. It's $17,000 line, and it said intern, commissioner intern. What's one of it? What was that?
I don't see the line, so.
We spoke on it, you and I asked what it was.
Well, I mean, it was for the actual intern program.
So that's what that whole internship, that's what. That,
The interns are on page 2.
Yeah, it's under line item 1200, so the 21,000.
Right, that's the budget for the interns for the coming fiscal year.
Yeah, I can't tell you why the 2022 budget is 119,000.
I think the best way to solve this is, do we have a copy of the last? Can we get our hands on the last printed document that we had prior to this?
I have it at home.
I've got one in my office too.
So we'll be able to
Do you recall me asking you about that one? But it was actually right up on the Commissioner's salary.
Again, I'll ask the question, can we get our hands on the actual
We need it
printout
now, not that we have.
so that we can properly address it?
Do you want it now?
Yeah, so we can properly address it.
And I'll just keep talking about something
Yeah.
else, okay. So we'll come back to that.
And you mentioned the disparity, so let me follow you, help me follow you. Where it said, 2022. Budgeted year, 119,000.
Yeah, Commissioner, I thought, and I may be wrong, that the intern salaries were embedded into that number, but on further review, it doesn't look like it. If we flip to the next page, we still had 20,000 budgeted in that same year, and then 21,000 for the upcoming year. So I apologize, but I can't tell you why 2022 was budgeted higher than the preceding years.
No commissioners remember anything, or was
Regarding,
Why, there's a high.
it was built in increase for the commission? That didn't take place?
That particularly,
We can always go look at the budget workbook too, which is an Excel document, and put notes on it.
I do recall that, that there was some funding set aside for the increase.
It's a salary,
So,
Not additional salary.
okay, so the conversation,
increase in salary.
so
Yeah.
from my understanding, there was a request that the commission have their own intern. I don't know if this was up under Mayor Hill, so I'm not sure if that was what he's referring to, but that was a request that the commission have their own intern.
I know I had asked for some assistance around administration, because we can't always put everything on Sunny that we can do everything for us as it relates to travel, research, or any of those things that we do. I know. And sometimes I know I found things way later because of all the things that I have. So from an administrative standpoint, I know I'll be maxed out. So I did speak to Jonathan about having an intern or whoever to be able to kind of help with some of the things as it relates to research and all other things. So
Do you follow that
I don't know.
budget, Commissioner McCaskill?
As it relates to an increase in what? Ask me a question.
It was included in the commissioner's salary.
In the amount of what?
It was a different amount. I'm not sure, but I know it was an amount raised. And
it was, I think, when the former city manager was here, Don, he reached out, I know he reached out to me regarding something along those lines, and Commissioner Jones was right.
Was it about 75,000? That what you're asking?
I don't know the exact amount, but
It was
it was something to do with an increase of whatever. So, and I think I don't know if he sent communication out or what, but I do know he did call me on that.
But that was discussed in a meeting.
It was
No,
a meeting
that was-
we passed it,
Right.
but it's not reflected,
It's not reflected. It's like it was full from the.
and it didn't happen.
And that, I mean, it was in the previous
Right.
budget,
Yes, sir.
and that's what Commissioner Jones.
I don't
Or was it related to internship?
No, that wasn't what related to insurance. That was related to commissioner's
So
salary.
what she's pulling is something different than what.
So it's two different conversations going on here.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm trying to capture right now.
I apologize, Commissioner, but I don't have this historical information that you're looking for. I mean, I can reach out to Lauren, I can reach out to Don Holmes. I can look in the budget workbook to see if there's some notes. I want to make sure that if you guys want to deliberate this, we've got good information for you.
I don't remember it being a part of the budget. I remember it being a conversation about taking in consideration, and that's when he looked at the different pay with regards to other surrounding areas. But I don't necessarily remember that it was built into the budget at that appointed time. I may be wrong, but I just remember the conversation because I can remember one positive thing that Mr. Vito said. He said we deserve a raise.
And I think, and I don't really want to speak on it, but if you're talking about that amount, and if it was going to go into the commissioners and increase in our salaries, I think it was going to be an astronomical amount that wasn't reflective of surrounding commissioner salaries or other cities that had the same population as ours to justify the salaries. I could be wrong.
This is the first one.
I'm having copies made.
Okay.
We'll be here
I don't
momentarily.
want no copy because I don't want to be confused.
I'm with you, Commissioner.
Conversation we're
I just,
talking about. Is it the intern of the $17,000 that was supposedly on the last one that we're looking for? Or
We want to continue and we'll come back as soon as we have this conference.
Well, I don't know if that's going to give you all of the information. It's about a $22,000 difference year over year. Like I said before, we can call Lauren and Don, who were here, and see if they remember. I can also look at the budget workbook. There may be some
Right.
notes on that cell.
Exactly.
And I mean, I can put it down to the follow-up item and make sure that we follow up with you
Okay.
immediately as soon as we have it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, we're doing
so we actually, number four, that's, I want some clarity. So. For the commission, and it's second you, man. Do we recall the conversation about the additional money being in the budget commission? You don't recall?
I remember there being a conversation, but I don't remember it being, I don't personally remember it being something that we were saying that it was going to be in the budget. It was just a conversation of consideration.
And I was here when Mr. Russo made that.
So that's the only thing
was
that-
after,
That was
like,
really after.
way after.
That was Mayor Hill, I could propose it, and we put it in.
So you said that was way after that. That was recent.
No, that was after that when Russo told you that. Well, he said that to us in general. Recently, the budget, it was in the budget from last year. It didn't happen because we didn't vote on it. The money was earmarked for it. Jonathan, do you recall any of that?
I don't, Commissioner, and I don't mind going back and watching the workshop like we did on the last item similar to this.
I'm looking
But I
at
can't do it right now.
information, researching it a bit and bringing that back.
Ms. Thomas, do you recall any conversation about it? That's all I'm saying. If you guys say that y'all don't recall, I guess Commissioner Bowen and I just.
Hold on.
And do you not have them? It's like you can do a
Do
quick
not
search.
recall. The red, all of the information, if you're talking, I'm asking, which conversation are you speaking of? If it's the one regarding an increase in our salaries that was earmarked, allegedly earmarked, I can't remember the whole conversation now. And I don't want to get too direct about it, but I think you brought it up before, you wanted us to get an increase, I think once.
I didn't bring it up.
Okay, see, that's why I say I don't want to,
Right, I get it.
I don't want to, and.
Because we're talking about budgeting.
Okay, so Sonny-
That our salaries
Sonny
would be,
found something.
Okay, there you
use that money. Use that money.
go. Okay, there we
Okay,
go.
there we go.
There you go.
Okay.
And for the record, I asked Sonny, could she find that? So
Okay.
I don't want you to think that she's just doing something to do it. I asked her, could she find it?
Okay. And I hate sitting up here when
No,
you
you,
knew it was a conversation and.
Well, I mean, I know, I remember this.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to make somebody recall something they didn't, but I just didn't want to seem as if though I'm imagining that we had this in the budget.
but it looked, the thing is, we had two different ones, I don't know if we were talking about. The one,
So what was that, Sonny? Could you just read it for us? Tell us what it was.
My minutes of July 15, 2022 budget workshop taking place at 10 a.m.
Maryhill requested 75,000 be set aside as a placeholder for the commission to allow us to look at part-time staffing for the needs of the commission and programming.
Could you read the Ms. Shank provided? Oh, never
Um,
mind. It says overall increase of commission budget
but yeah,
about 24,000.
And she indicated, what she indicated, I can't see.
it goes on to a different topic. Ms. Shank shared the property appraisers results and the valuations based upon different millage rates. It just
Commission
keeps
budget.
going. Ms. Shank provided an overview of the proposed commission budget. Overall increase of the commission budget is about 24,000, which is majorly caused by the contract with the lobbyists. We allotted for a 5% cost of living increase to all employees. Ms. Shank indicated that an 80,349 increase to commission salaries is a Scrivener's error. The commission's travel budget has been increased by $300 each due to rising costs. Commissioner Jones, Campbell, and Maryhill advised a little more than 300 needs to be added. Commissioner Campbell and Maryhill asked Ms. Shank to model out the cost of living page wage increase. Commissioner Jones advised he knew it would not be 80,000, but asked Ms. Shank to bring to the next workshop what the number would be for a 9% cost of living increase. And if I could just interject my recollection, that 9% cost of living increase was what ended up being in the budget, not the 75,000.
That's a 22% increase, 2021 to 2022, not 9%.
So is that what took place? I didn't see the reflection.
We got an increase in our salary, am I right? What did our salary increase go from? We got a salary increase, am I correct? Am I correct? Okay. But it was not a reflection of the. I didn't remember 80,000. It was not a reflection of a $75,000 increase. Am I right? I'm just saying. I want to say it out loud. It's brought up. We did get a salary increase.
Why don't we, go back and confirm everything, if we can, if we don't know. We
We wouldn't know if we got a salary increase.
we should, well, we can look here,
It's pretty.
you know, the year that we're currently living in.
Those things went
This is
down.
the budget right here.
From that, that meeting, did we get a salary?
But then how,
Point of clarification.
yeah.
Because point of clarification, I'm just trying to understand where we are and where we're going, because I think it's like a few different conversations going on, so I'm trying to mainstream the conversation and the intent of the original question.
The intent is to be reflected. Excuse me, so that it would have been reflected in the 2022 budget as an item that was added. If it was increased, we should see it. Also, budget to date, it would be on as well in 2023 budget. Remember we asked about the actual?
Yeah.
So that's the purpose. I don't see it, and that's why I asked for it. And nobody else said they remembered at the time. I didn't actually, I thought it was 75, it says 80 there. So it's some disparity.
But it said 75 for the
amount allotted or set aside.
for the
That's what it was. It was that. I could tell you the whole story, but I just want to, I wonder how much you guys would recall.
Commissioner Council,
Yeah,
what date was that meeting on? What date?
That was July
Trying to get back.
22.
Did we have a salary increase after that meeting? I have not gotten it.
Yeah, there was a COLA.
It was a COLA, it was cost of living.
Okay, we got a COLA increase. Okay, but we did get, okay.
So we need another. And for this budget,
Thank you.
Commissioner, for this budget, you're in the budget, or the commissioners and mayor in the budget at 5%.
Thank you.
So what was it last year, Ms. Carter? The COLA?
See that, because it wasn't here, I don't want to speak too freely.
I don't think it. Oh, did
That's
you?
why I would prefer to.
It was
give you an
5%,
opportunity. It's
not
5%.
COLA for,
Okay.
all the way around, it's 5%.
Okay.
So we did get the 4%, additional 4%, but that's. Didn't say 9% up there?
Minutes said 9%.
Okay.
So it didn't happen, so my question, I think it's a fair question, but not fair to Ms. Carter if she wasn't here. That 4%, are we entitled? That's all I want to, based on what was put there and what was voted on.
Go ahead.
So this is what I would recommend. First, let us go back to the July 15th, 2022. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Let us watch it so that we can see all the discussion that occurred around that notation in the minutes. Sonny, I did not see a motion. And then we will look at the budget that was presented to you following that, and we'll see what the COLA was in that, and then we'll report back to you, and you can tell us how you'd like to move forward.
Thank you.
And we will try and at least get through watching the video and get the actual COLA that was in the budget, because that's what you approved by ordinance. And we'll get that to you by close of business next week.
right.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And just for, as Commissioner Campbell would say, point of clarity, just wanted to clarify, see was my recollection right, and as we approve those things, make sure I know, recall what we approved. And, you know, just like we're going over this now, sometimes we see it, we approve it, but I want to make sure, But so going forth, and I did see that line item in here for an intern, and maybe that was what Commissioner Bourne had asked about to get approval, but I did see it in my sheet at home because I circled it to ask the question about it. And matter of fact, City Manager, never mind. Yeah, I have a question about it. I'm sorry.
No, but you don't say you're okay. I think we're all set. Mr. Griffin.
I think, Mayor, we'll make sure to follow up on that as soon as possible this week. We left off talking about the retreat, the team building exercise. So I'll re-forward an email that I sent all of you a couple weeks ago, asking you to reach out to me and tell me kind of what you expect that event to look like, so that we can make sure that we accomplish what you're looking for. The next thing I want to bring to your attention, we move on to the legal budget, which would be on page 20 of the budget workbook. The biggest change here is that we're going from having a contractual city attorney to having a full-time, at least we hope so. Knock on wood. Okay. A full-time in-house city attorney. You know, we've budgeted for that position, so you'll see the increase in executive salaries, but you'll see a decrease in professional services. We did leave some money in professional services. There are some things that city attorney needs to do. Do you want to elaborate as to what those typically are? Okay. You're leaving that up to the next person, right? Okay. We did increase some of the lines minor, but that is a pretty substantial increase to this budget. But it's my recommendation that we continue forward as planned. We got a lot of stuff in the works. Bright initiative, code enforcement has been scaling up, gearing up for the past couple of years. All our capital projects that we have in the hopper for the next 5 to 10 years. The city attorney, in addition to advising the commission, helps support those efforts, and we're seeing a substantial increase in those areas. Don't have any questions regarding the legal budget?
Anybody have any questions?
Moving on to City Hall. G page.
11.
210. What was that? What number? I think 226 and.
Hold on before you go.
Okay.
What was it, Commissioner?
Is that 226?
Yes, that's the total budget.
For the budget for
The legal services, legal counsel.
Yeah.
Salary and
That's-
Yeah. What is the base?
yeah,
The base for the position?
Yeah, base, because it's not also not the other, costs is not, what numbers are we really talking about?
Okay, so if you look on page 20, sir, and I apologize, Commissioner Morgan, you made this notation earlier, we're gonna make that correction, but on page 20, you'll see a total for the actual personnel services. So if you include, we always assume the worst when we budget here. So that is probably, family health insurance, and then is that mid-range that we're budgeting for?
No, well, I'm looking at the page 20. Can you let me finish?
Can we just kind of tell this to them?
Okay,
So you get retirement, health insurance, where you should have told them.
base salary.
it's exactly.
Base, okay.
Well, that's.
Okay.
Basic, that's
So,
salary.
Okay, then we got everything here. So it's 210 for the,
That's with all the carrying costs associated with the position.
okay, that makes sense. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, like, in the past, we see a number.
Yep.
And then some other things associated with it, so if that's the total number.
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you.
Can we move on to City Hall budget? That'd be page 11. I don't like the broken record here. We got some old buildings, so, you'll notice an increase in the building maintenance line. It's only a 5,000 increase, but we're trying to get, an adequate maintenance line for a lot of our older buildings. So we increased that for this facility you're sitting in right now, 30,000. Something that was originally in the budget, but we had to pull it out to balance, and something that we may look to include, when we go to the next version, is budgeting for the roof replacement on that facility in 1 to 2 years. We did just have a situation where we had a leak. This is a flat roof and it drains to a couple internal corners. We had a leak in finance a couple weeks ago. It's the only thing I have for City Hall. Do y'all have any questions about that one?
Listen. City Hall needs a whole lot more in order to get us where we need to be. And I say it from the standpoint of safety. Overall, I would like to see us put in the budget a money towards safety. That area out there, when you come in, there is nothing protecting anybody from anything.
That was one of my requests in the recommendation.
And I talked about it in our meeting. I don't know, buzz-in
Yes.
system. I don't know we need to make sure if this is gonna be home, that home is secure.
Right.
We need to have money put in that budget to make sure that we take care of those who are helping take care of the general public. Not to even mention what we're sitting in is very much outdated. We don't even have modern technology. The most modern technology we have is Zoom. And that's horrible for us to be in this day and age. So I would love for us to make sure that, again, if this is where we're gonna be, let's make this home.
We had those supposedly secure, those areas supposed to be secure because they had put together some type of design, a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, we were unable to get any contractors to bid on the project.
Right, so we do have something in place, we just need to, what do we need to just go back and do a
So Commissioner Borum and Commissioner Campbell, I guess the rest of the commission, what you're speaking to was simply just some walls and some doors. I think what Commissioner Campbell was speaking to in terms of security is something more sophisticated and a lot more armor, something like with a sally port and a Raptor system to check people in and out. So it's much more substantial. not to say that we can't do it, I just want to make it known that it's more than the 20 to 30,000 we set aside to put some partitions and doors up originally a couple years ago.
Well, I know we was supposed to be able to protect the, staff from just from being able to easily access staff. And yeah, again, we do need to have hardening to secure, the facility. And so whatever that means in terms of looking at ways to, you know, make the necessary amendments to the original thing that we had, just make whatever it takes to make the additional hard for the facility. And just again, like you go to the courthouse, you get scanned in. There's nobody who can take a weapon, knife, or gun, or whatever else it may be when they go through the scan. So we need to look at pretty much everything we possibly can to make sure that we are protected here. Staff and the residents and commission, everybody care, our visitors. So we need to protect them.
Up there on the dais.
I know I said that.
Hey,
Oh,
public.
I ain't hear you.
What?
I was gonna-
I said the commission.
Yeah, and I'm, we're up on the diet, because we have, no exit, we have nowhere to go.
So we just need to think
We
about.
bring kids in here for student of the month.
Yeah.
We bring the public out and we bring them in. We have to provide safety for them. So we have to consider it. I understand that we want to get up to date and close the digital gap, but we also need to consider safety. We really, really do. So that's my first priority.
I agree with you on that.
No, I'm stating what I talked about in my
Right.
budget, but my number one thing, and Ms. McCarthy, it was the safety.
Right.
Technology came but safety has been something that we've been embarking on for not just this budget season, but a few budget seasons.
And I don't think we're finished with it because we had some requests in terms of being able to see the entry areas as well as the lighting around the facility. And I think Chief might be able to speak to us about that. Chief Shaw, did we have some things as we related to like the lighting and the camera systems and stuff out here? Did we, do you recall? If not, then no. If not, then don't. It's not
I
a big deal.
was in a different conversation, and I just want to make sure I understand what you asked.
We were talking about the security and safety, and this, I'm talking about as part of being totally secure and safe. We do have a number of staff who stay here all kinds of,
Yes,
all sorts of hours. So we want to make sure that our camera systems around the whole facility, as well as the lighting that we have worked on. And I think we had some funds that we were utilizing to improve our safety and security. Do you remember that lighting?
I remember the discussion on the lighting camera and the security systems for the front, as well as I believe we did do some upgrades to the back door, and the discussion on the back door. As far as any funding that was set aside, no, I don't recall any of that or had any knowledge of it.
We thought we put some money aside to make sure that the lighting, because I think Benson was here at the time, and then when Sonny came on board, then we started implementing some of those things. But that's something that we want to incorporate as part of the total security of everything and everybody.
So can we give direction to the city manager at this time to put in for a budget for safety measures up front and look to putting an escape door, would you say, or emergency door here from the dais? Some type of.
We also talked about that at
Some
one
kind
point.
of protective
Some
mechanism.
type, because I brought it up, and actually, that's why I'm on this end here, because I'm very cautious of being able to exit.
So yeah, let's task the city manager with those items, as well as when you mention up to date, and we're doing that stuff here. I think that we should update the level of communication, how we communicate. This don't look really professional.
I asked for something like that in the budget.
They're working on that.
Right.
Yes.
I sent the communication to when Don was the city manager, and then also to,
So-
current city manager
So
now.
we have a solution in the works.
Okay,
I
so,
think you will like it.
so, yeah, so I think that's what you've been asking for, the direction, so that, oh,
But this is what you do, this is what you do, and we do it all the time when we chair committees throughout Florida City. And so that's just, it's the protocol that you use and to be able to say, hey, I'm up next. Otherwise, you're gonna be cutting into own people or just, you never know who's next, so we got somebody who's smart.
and folk have, made the comment that when we're talking, that these microphones, that's everybody that's connected, you can't hear when you're on Zoom. So I don't know who.
That's part of the technology that I was talking about.
I just said, look, I said both things, security and technology.
That was
So
as a result of the license, like, they were actually in here working today. I don't know if you saw Sunny, but she was upset because when they tested it earlier, it worked, but when she fired everything up, it wasn't working. So I believe she has them coming back out.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.
I could tell my mic is not.
Are we all set with this topic on?
Yeah, so the direction is put some money in the budget, and so we should see that reflected in the next workshop.
If I may add, I did actually, just recently finish doing the same thing over in Quincy. And I made sure that everything was secure
Yeah,
during the tenure that I had as, city manager for that small period.
right.
I told them I'm from Miami and, I'm sorry. So immediately,
Right.
that was done. So yes, I will assist our city manager.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I really do know how.
And if I may ask, city manager, I didn't see a line, I see the line for, janitorial supply, but who's actually cleaning City Hall? We actually need some type of service, or I don't know, HR would, can we chime in on having a facilities cleaning person? Would it be, more cost effective to hire a janitor, the City Hall or the administrative building? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind going into that now, Commissioner. Absolutely covered again later on, up underneath facilities, and was Mr. Cutright presentation. But historically, we've had both. So there was a time where the city didn't have janitorial services, and City Hall would just call Public Works, and they'd send somebody down who was on light duty to do it. That didn't work. Following that, we actually had a part-time person. We called them cultural resource attendant. Their primary job was to maintain the cleanliness of the facilities, and they had a schedule set for that. The rest of their job, they flexed in and out to open and close rental facilities, and they covered about 75% of the rental facilities. And when they reached their maximum hours, somebody else, either from Public Works or Parks and Recreation at the time, would take the overtime and do the opening and closing. What we're proposing this year, and to answer your earlier question, who's cleaning the facilities? You all terminated the contract with the previous contractor.
Made it seem so harsh.
Huh?
Made it seem like.
Recommended.
Staff recommended, and no, yeah, I'll make that sound a little bit better. The contract was going to term at the end of this fiscal year anyways. We weren't getting the services that we needed. So we went ahead and just recommended terminating that contract. This past week, we actually had a vendor come in and just do a deep clean on City Hall. I believe Ms. Krantz has pushed out their contact information to other department heads just to get us through the next couple of months and to see what you all want to do. My recommendation along with staff is to have a blend of the two. I think we need to bring the part-time person back. You need that person that's going down to the riverfront and checking that bathroom, comes in here at least once or twice a week, replenishes things, and does some of the other recreation facilities. And then also keeping some money set aside for deep cleaning or augmenting that person when it's too much for them. So in your budget right now, we actually have a position, part-time position that we're hoping to go back to the way we used to do it.
Any other questions?
No, as long as it's in there, I want to make sure we address it.
Any more questions about City Hall? Okay. Moving on to the city manager's budget, that's page 12. You'll see that we're still budgeting for the city manager position. We are budgeting on the high side that to make sure you guys have maximum amount of room to negotiate with your top candidate. We do have another position that's in here as a decision unit. It is a procurement coordinator. This position kind of operates similar to myself. Similar to funding and general services, they kind of service all departments and all funds. We've seen an increase in our invitation to bids, request for proposals, request for qualifications, based upon the amount of work that we're doing with capital projects and initiatives by 31% since 2021. Now, I know I told you the reality of the situation is we got cut about 1.5 million from the general fund balance. So as an alternative to this, something that we could do is we consider a program coordinator that focuses on a couple of your larger appropriation and grants, specifically affordable housing funded by ARPA and your appropriation. Take some of that workload off of your existing staff and make sure that we actually utilize those grant dollars and those appropriation dollars to the best of their ability. And that would take some of that procurement responsibility off of your existing staff. This is a position that I think that ultimately we need. It's one of the areas that our departments kind of suffer. They may have an adequate budget line, but they don't have the adequate staffing or skill set to get the necessary procurement documents out to stay in compliance with the city's procurement policy and in state and federal procurement guidelines. I'm sure you're all aware of how extensive those procurement documents are and the process and how long it takes. And I've talked to some of you about some of the projects and grants that we've received, how long it actually takes to put the money on the street, no pun intended. So that is a position that I think in the next few years that we got to figure out how to fund. There is an alternative. Any questions?
Could we contract those services out?
You could. There is some benefit to contracting, but you would only see it in the grant projects or larger capital projects. You would not see the benefit in some of the smaller operational procurement activities. And that's honestly where, our department heads need a lot of help. Smaller to medium-sized purchases, yes.
Well, excuse me. So when you look at it, those grant projects, you could build that part in. So the procurement part, department heads, do we need some training? Because we look at the salaries. No pun intended. I think y'all worth every dollar, but I think there's a training issue that we can train up our people to be able to do that, because that's part of it so far up until today. And you mentioned that position. Who has been doing procurement in the department?
So all departments have the responsibility, and maybe I need to elaborate a little bit more on why we see the need for this. It's not a quality thing, it's a quantity thing. They just can't get the number of procurement documents out. And another thing is we've got a charge that's within our policy and adopted ordinance to shop local as much as possible. One of the things that we've seen is kind of an inequity when we put out these projects that are 30, 40, even 50, $60,000. You've got capable contractors and vendors in the county limits, but they also have trouble meeting the city's procurement and vendor requirement of getting the necessary insurance and kind of following our step-by-step process. It's a little burdensome for them. So that's one of the areas that I didn't originally elaborate on, Commissioner, that, it would be the hope that this person, this position would help to kind of amplify not only our internal capabilities and the amount of procurement activities we put out, but also assist at kind of driving some equity in keeping those dollars local. And have that money recirculating in our economy and not going to Daytona, Palm Coast, St. Johns County. Because that's where the big guys are, and they're used to doing this type of government work. I think we need to help our own kind of become capable of doing work for the city government.
Same thing I'm saying, and I can appreciate that thought, but understand what I'm saying. And I don't think you answered that question I said. Who have been doing procurement duties? They have, when they meaning the department heads or who?
It depends on the type of procurement.
So
So
could you-
department heads get the majority of their own quotes when it comes to their operating budget. And I'd say 99% of their quotes, they're actually reaching out to vendors. They're getting the quotes, they're submitting them to finance through the purchase order requisition process and requesting the vendor documentation to be established as a vendor. When it comes to larger capital projects, over the past few years, the General Services Department, including Ms. Tucker, myself, Ms. Gano, even the city attorney, the city manager, have been working with the department heads to kind of push some of that responsibility back down so that they can be in the driver's seat in developing some of their own requests for proposals, invitation to bids, and requests for qualifications. We've seen a lot more productivity with them doing those procurement efforts because we have some standardized templates developed. But as I stated earlier, since the responsibility is kind of divided depending on the scale of the project, to answer your question more directly, we've seen an increase of 31% year over year. There's just a need to do more work.
So I know some departments have requested additional, looking at the budget, additional staff, assistants, chief assistant, at the cost of almost $40,000. These units in these particular departments. We even have an assistant city manager. We're adding more positions. And is there any way we could divide, excuse me, some of those duties and responsibility? And I'm not, I haven't seen any, and that's why I'm asking you up front, and we're not gonna be able to discuss, but on these items that we have in the decision item on making these positions viable and saying yes to creative positions, some of them, I want to know, could those duties be handed down to those individuals? It would actually help us make a more informed decision. And as I said, the assistant city manager, I don't know, was that one of the duties that that person would be doing as well, or was responsible? You told me the project manager with your former position, that's what one of the duties were, along with Marsha and Mandy. So is that not one of those duties or responsibilities? And are we gonna plan on adding another person in that department to also help out with the same issue, procurement?
Well, even though the position is in the city manager's budget, they would operate within that pool of the general services department. You asked about positions that we have decision units on. I see 2 positions, admin assistants, where it would be expected they would have the capability and the knowledge to assist their department heads or directors in completing small to medium-sized purchases. Assuming those positions are funded.
Yeah, so they're all being asked, or all of them are asked right now, along with the one that you just mentioned.
Correction, sir. 3 water assistants, water treatment plant assistant superintendent. Apologize.
And with all the large projects that's coming in the pipe, are we thinking about replacing the project manager as well in the near future?
I would hope not. We definitely need her, yeah.
Huh?
No, I mean,
No,
I pretty much.
another
your
addition.
formal position
Yeah,
before you were just city manager.
Former position was general services director.
with general service.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's an accurate assessment. When we did the salary study and the job classification study, it basically just said that it was a wrong classification, that the general service director should have been titled assistant city manager based on the responsibilities assigned to them. But to your point, there is a need based upon the workload that's coming down the pipeline. And that's why I presented that other alternative to you, because, and I apologize, the program coordinator would not be a full-time permanent position. We would approach it on a contractual basis. So you'd still have somebody come on that could help you with specific programs and projects. And they'd be funded from that revenue source, not from general fund. And you can put a timeline of 1 to 2 years on it. They would know that it is a contractual position, but they still would report to the city, which is better than contracting with an architectural and engineering firm when you're trying to chase them down on a daily basis. You know where they sit.
Okay. And just for my, just a point of reference, and you know, clarity, just a reference. That was one of the reasons that the former city manager stated that he needed an assistant city manager, and he thought it'd be appropriate for some of those same duties. So my point, and that's it.
Anything else?
Do we still have the line of the engineer position?
Yes, sir. There's still a project manager / engineer position. It is filled with Ms. Ginnup currently,
Right.
and she is full-time now.
Right, what I'm saying is we just had that, remember we budgeted for just the engineer, but then we downgrade, we downgraded the position.
No, we budgeted for an engineer hybrid project manager position. And we have here, what year?
Yeah.
That's in the water and sewer budget.
I think what, no, when we had, initially, we were hiring for an engineer, we pushed out for engineer. We moved the salary from 80,000 to 100,000 so that we could get better candidates. So is that still not in the?
Where are you committed?
No, we just was done before, I think, just before you came on. But we had this budgeted in 22, so you came in on 22. 20. So I think it was like either 20 or 21, 20, we had it during that time when we had engineer position, and we bumped it from 80,000 to 100,000 to make sure we can get better candidates.
So we had the position budgeted. We advertised multiple cycles. We interviewed a number of candidates. We selected one. His current employer gave him a raise to keep him in Putnam County.
Right.
He was a project manager that had gone to school for engineering and was studying to take the state licensure exams. After that, we advertised again of that pool. Ms. Gano, who has some engineering background, interviewed. She communicated she only wanted a part-time position. At that time, we moved forward with an offer to Ms. Gano. She's been with us for about a year now. And recently she was put on full-time.
So she basically filled that position.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
We feel that position, what is that?
Ms. Jones, can you get that?
We talked about, did you know, we just want to know if it was at the engineer's salary. So we're looking for professional engineers with the certification of a professional engineer. Because we had complex projects that we sometimes go back and revisit. We just have the skill sets and expertise in house, and we have some things that we could just do one time as opposed to continue to do things because maybe from a knowledge and maybe, and experience and the background.
So, not to hold us up, this item is under the utility administration budget.
Yeah, we,
We move on and then maybe come back to that.
well,
Okay. Ms. France?
I have to queue up my own presentation. Bear with me. Yes. 10 minutes on the wrong one, aren't
You need me to click it?
but I didn't do them both. Mayor, Commission, City Manager, thank you so much for the opportunity to present my proposed budget for the City Clerk's office. Achievements for this year. As you can tell, I've strived very, very hard to stay current with everything that we have going on. I've attended and took the minutes of over 33 City Commission meetings, 7 CRA meetings, and 4 day advisory boards, as well as I've assisted with the minutes of several of our voluntary boards. Of course, as you all know, a commission means that there's more work to do after the commission. I've processed in my office alone 30 ordinances, 173 resolutions, and 120 contracts. This is not reflecting of the numbers from the last commission meeting. While doing all this, I've been very privileged to assist you with our Youth Ambassador Program, Student of the Month, and the Summer Intern annually. Major goal number 1 is to continue to be current with all of our legal advertisements, agendas, and minutes. As you can tell, we usually have at least more than one, usually on some weeks even 3 commissioned or voluntary board meetings. So it's very, very easy to get behind. My second goal while running all of that is to try to work towards the organization of historical city records. The current operating budget that I have is $31,587. The proposed total, which isn't terribly much more, is $38,050. You'll see these increases in your budget under professional services due to the increase in Unicode costs. So there's cost associated with processing so many ordinances and passing so many ordinances, and that's where that cost is seen. I'm also asking the commission and the city manager to allow us to switch agenda software providers. The reason why I'm asking to change agenda software providers is because I believe our citizenry would benefit by changing software providers. Our current provider we've had for over 10 years, and they're no longer providing updates to the current program. They have other programs that they offer that are more modern, as well as other companies provide options that are more modern. There's one that I've looked into particularly would definitely help us in the area of ADA compliance. And I see that as a benefit because we would be able to provide all of our backup to our citizens without them having to call or put in a request on a regular basis. Moving on, City Clerk's office personnel, the current staffing list is, well, me. I'm a member of the Florida Association of City Clerks, and I'm very pleased to announce to you that I've been selected by my association to be a member of the 2023-2024 mentoring committee.
Good job.
As you know, I was mentored by Vanessa Castillo from the city of Winter Haven, who was mentored by Sherry Dowdy originally from the city of Palatka before she moved away. So I'm very happy to be able to get that opportunity to continue to mentor and be Palatka be a source of mentoring. I'm also a member of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. As you know, I received my CMC this past year, and I'm working towards the Master Municipal Clerk certification. My proposed staffing list, of course, me. Also, I believe the city, to put us forward, we do need a records coordinator at some point. Maybe that's not this year, but definitely at some point, the city clerk needs assistance in organizing those historical records. Like I told you, the majority of my day, my week, my month is keeping the clerk's office regular and up to date. But we have to go back and fix the backlog from all the years where things weren't organized and there wasn't a records coordinator position. If we hired a records coordinator, they would be able to attend the Florida Records Management Association classes. Whereas I've been focusing on the clerk classes, they can focus on those. So they wouldn't be double duty conferences. And of course, we could cross-train them to back up me in the event of vacation or absence where we currently don't have a plan. We could have somebody back me up. But we have a more immediate need in the clerk's office. And that is for a receptionist or a customer service clerk, which I believe we're all aware. I wanted to give you an example of some of the record storage from the previous that I've been dealing with. This is just one room. I was asked to give you one picture of one room rather than the 10 rooms that we have. This shows you all of the boxes that are organized in various fashions. You can tell different people boxed up the documents. So they were all done very, very differently. And sometimes they have labels and sometimes they don't. But I can tell you with the assistance of the intern this summer, we have acquired a warehouse storage facility and we've put in new shelves. And since this picture was taken, we've actually transported and placed on those shelves all of the city's records prior to 1925. So I can tell you that all of the historical records that we have from the 1800s up until 1925 are located in a cooled, conditioned, heated facility that is not leaking. So with that, thank you for allowing me to present this to you.
I got a question on the documents that we receive. I know a lot of times there are time requirements associated with those documents, correct? So, anything from, life cycle in those documents, some of them have different time periods in terms of record keeping and disposal, whatever it may be. So, it's super, super important that, we look at, making sure that we get our records, because we got some important things that we have, and then also if there's ever like a litigation or a lawsuit, whatever it may be, we can have some documents that's sitting around that could potentially.
Correct, because you don't know where they are.
So, yeah.
And
So,
even in both conferences, they will train people and tell them that your first task is to do a records inventory.
Right.
Determine what records you have and make an inventory of them. And that would definitely, if we had a records coordinator, would be their very first step on the job.
it's something that we really need to sit out here so we can kind of support that, hopefully.
Personally, at this time, the city attorney has been attending the records management.
She's doing a great job.
Yeah. She looks like she wanted to continue to do that.
So at this point, Sonny and I have been working together. Ms. Jones has also gone through her records and things like that, and we are submitting the forms, correct forms as they're needed. We're making the instructions, we're making up the timelines, and because we got a nice, clean, no leaking, cool room to store our stuff, we're moving forward on this.
Well, we appreciate y'all for that. Certainly appreciate it.
But I think this is something that we definitely need to take into consideration. We know, as Commissioner Bourne said earlier, Sonny is pulled in a million different directions, trying to do a million different things. So this is something that we definitely, every time I call, she answers, "Hi, Commissioner Campbell." So, but I know.
What's he do?
She brightens my day. She brightens my day. But overall, I do believe that it will be beneficial to the functionality of moving forward the way that we need to.
And burnout, she's like Commissioner Bourne said, she's pulling in a lot of different directions. And, she's overmaxed. Yeah, there's a number of people here that's overmaxed, and we want to make sure that any and all of our staff are not just operating at, in the red zone all the time. So we want to make sure that we make sure we take care of, the people who take care of the city.
And that's one of the reasons why we asked at our last meeting is to go in for the big ask so that we know exactly what it is that each department needs. If you go in with the minimal and we give you the minimum, well, we could have given you a little bit more than the minimum. This is the time. So again, we want to make sure that, like Commissioner Bourne said, we want to make sure that all of our departments are where they need to be. So again, anytime we ask you all to give us the big ask, give us the big ask so that we can dwindle it down if we need to, but never go in for the minimum because you never know what you can get if you ask for more.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to echo on those sentiments, the records coordinator is before you as a decision unit. The receptionist, I believe, the city manager and finance director did allocate funding for the receptionist position.
So when is that?
Receptionist / records clerk.
So that would be the prior, at least the immediate, that's the first need, even though both are needed. If we have a receptionist, that would give do some of the records.
They could theoretically scan at their desk, but they wouldn't be able to go into the warehouses and the back rooms to scan while answering the phone.
Now, I just have a question about that. Reception and secretary. We don't pay in the water bill and stuff over here anymore. So what, they just gonna just say, well, Sunny is right here? I don't get it. Just help me understand. Because you're up front as well. And we have the planning clerk up front. What exactly you guys want to do there with the receptionist to be? I mean, I haven't seen the traffic. I'm not here every day. But just kind of help us make that decision.
So a couple things. The first is Ms. Krantz and the planning clerk out front have actually been keeping a tally of the type of inquiries, walk-ins and calls that they're getting. We've done this historically at Public Works and other facilities. I think we're going on a month now. We'll share that with you at a later date when we got enough information. But the planning clerk is set to relocate with the building and zoning department across the street when community affairs moves to Jenkins. So we will lose a warm body out there, and we have to have two.
That explains
Okay.
That explains it. I got it.
Thank you.
But we'll gladly share the information about the types of
Yeah,
increased
I just-
calls and walk-ins we get. We were ourselves very curious about the nature of those walk-ins and calls.
We're replacing that person. Pretty much the planning clerk.
Yes, sir.
And I call quite a bit too there.
We don't want it.
Let's take that out of the tally.
Go ahead, let me add it in, because you picking the phone most of the time.
You'll be on the survey.
Thank you.
And
Anything
don't
else?
tell her how many times I call, please.
So.
Yeah, let's see who called the most, who called the next.
I'm not tracking ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, Ms. Krantz? Thank you.
Excellent
Thank you,
presentation.
Debbie.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, just to speak on what's going on in the human resources world. The achievements in this past fiscal year is coming into compliance with our performance evaluations, getting out to our department heads to make sure that as we move forward with our recommendation in the step grade, that all of the performance evaluations are in compliance and are being done. Risk management and safety training is a part that we have been slowly working on. Risk management, where our general liability, any accidents, workers' comp claims, and all of this, where it used to fall solely on Mr. Griffin. HR has taken up a lot of that and be able to respond back to the floor, to the lead, and give them the information that they need as soon as possible so we can see where it stands with our employees. Safety training, I think, is something that we really have been trying to put a little bit more in with the safety committee meetings, trying to see where we're standing in there to see what's happening with all of the accidents, who's at fault, what's going on. So we'll be able to better let the department heads know what kind of training needs to be implemented in each department. We've done well with our wellness program, which is something else I would like.
I have a
Yes,
question
sorry.
on the
Yes.
risk management and safety training.
Mm.
What is our insurance risk rating?
They just sent out a new one and I will go and get it because they did just tell me what our risk rating was. And I will get that for you.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. It's
Okay. Our wellness program has went very well, especially with our Blue Value incentives. We get reimbursed for $10,000. So we've been able to reach our employees in ways and get them to participate in health initiatives and all of that with the Mayor's Health Challenge and different other things there. Employee vacancies, and anybody knows that's a moving piece in there. But for the most part, I would be really comfortable saying at 75% reduced employment vacancies at one time. It's climbing, it goes down. The fire department, police department, and public works were the biggest of the vacancies that had really closed in. But then again, we start seeing these moving pieces with people leaving, resigning or just retiring, whatever the case may be. So that was just a lot of it. We're constantly have been streamlining the onboarding process to try to minimize that process from just operating by myself from a 2-week process because I'm dependent on a lot of outside sources for background checks, medics to get everything, processed in. So we're trying to streamline that so we can get it down, so we can get somebody in and start as soon as possible. Down here. Yeah. Down. This thing is not working on.
Oh, we did get morale?
No.
Morale, or was that underneath something else?
Yeah, I just didn't touch all of it. I do have that up. I'll go back up. So in the spotlight recognition has really built up the morale. We have, since that program started in 2021, we were able to get the plaques up with our employees' names on it, and just them being able to see that and being recognized for that has really increased morale throughout. I get, as soon as I send out the email to say we need to start, they start sending in recommendations and nominating people for that. So that has been great for our employees.
You didn't want to skip on that.
Okay. Okay. My 23-24 goals are going to be records management and compliance. Doing my internship, she was able to go up and we only got 2 rooms. I have rooms over in across the street, and we had one upstairs, HR, as well as in the other records room down the alleyway up here that everybody knows about. And she was able to get all of those records that contain personnel files that we only need a retention of 5 years.
Okay.
We had stuff back in 10, 15 years.
Right.
So she was able to purge out a lot of files that was taking up space up there. So as somebody leaves current, I have file and space to move those from active to inactive. And then we have gotten all the forms together to start packing those boxes up. Most of the stuff she packed up, we call them for the straight truck and get rid of it. The things that we need to keep and maintain will be moved over to our records building that's safe to move stuff. So it's still a long thing in process because I still have a lot of files across the street that we need to move into. Increased our safety training. I really want to look into that because with the number of accidents and not whatever they may be, attention to detail, some are not always their fault, but we need to really increase as much as we can in every department to try to minimize some of these accidents, which is the rating that you were asking about that we need to try to keep down as low as possible. Updated personnel policy manual. As you guys are aware, it hasn't been updated since 1986. That is going to be that is something we really want to do, and it's trying to give a whole big pie at one time. My goal is to start breaking it out in least quarters to bring to you guys the pieces that need to be done, to bring it in quarters, and then we can go over it until we get through the entire thing. And then it can be signed off so we can add in, make sure everything that you guys have already adopted since then, like our new travel policy and all of that, is incorporated in it. Now, our salary study, Tom did, and I gave it to you guys at one time.
Right.
A new policy that's ADA compliant with a lot of things that we need to really look over and make sure it's in there. And that'll minimize a lot of the other effort too, in getting this updated and adopted and current in 2023, 2024. My goal is to reduce the turnover and onboarding time, which we talked about, of course, and our turnover rate, and is finding out, being able to go out a little bit more and find out what the issues are, what's causing all of the, so we can try to address those issues within the department, and then again, at meetings with the city manager.
On the personnel manual, I thought we were working on that a few years ago and we were making progress.
Yeah, when we did the salary study, the last piece of the salary study, which would come to rewrite our personnel manual, which he did. He submitted that. I have since given that, and it kind of fell through the cracks because when I submitted it, gave for 2 months out so we could come back and revisit it. It still had a lot of moving pieces and nobody was ready to really do that. So again, it was one of those things that was at the forefront and then it's back. But we really need to, start working on that and get that updated.
All right.
Okay. What's the one I wanted to? Can you change now? Oh, there we go. Okay, so for HR operating budget at current is at 51,534. The proposed total is actually going down because within that 51 was a oversight that had to be moved into the budget that wasn't recognized in the last one. For my budget, the most notable things are in advertising, since HR is pulling in advertising from every department, all of the advertising for jobs, whatever they need. And we're trying to get into getting proper equipment for job fairs so we can move past just doing a few here and being able to participate, but represent the city. And that's causing for retractable banners and tablecloths and all of our different stuff that we need to get. So a lot of it is in advertising, professional development, is so I can get some new software. So it would make our software for our employees to where they're able to go online and pull a copy of their W-2. That's going to release HR out of a lot of stuff. So we definitely want that. And then of course our wellness funds that are funded a lot by a Blue Value program. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Excellent job. Okay, I appreciate you. And I think this is well what you've done in HR.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it too, but I got a question. It's not for you. You can have a seat. Are we going to have a hard stop time for today? Or are we going to
That's
keep
a
it?
good question.
Well, that's
I
how
have a question for her while y'all deciding that. What's the update on the policy manual? I thought we've been working on that. At some point, are we gonna get it before us to approve it, or where are we at in the process?
Yeah, it came, okay, I brought it before and I would have to look back at the commission meeting.
Do you mind if I?
I'm sorry.
No, you fine. 'Cause, I mean, that's 37 years ago. I know that.
Yeah, no, we were, and, that doesn't fall on, Ms. Jones's shoulders solely, as your interim city manager, we actually had talked about this a couple of times, and the timing just hasn't been right because we're getting into budget and other things pop up. We do have that document, where staff reviewed, Mr. Masters' recommendations for changes on the personnel policy. We actually presented it to you and got some input. It still needs to be circulated to the department heads again and to staff as a whole to get some feedback. We could probably put that on our calendars for about 1 to 2 months out.
Okay, please.
Yeah. And to
That's all
Commissioner
of the
Campbell's question, if y'all were okay with it, I would shoot for an 8 o'clock hard stop. So long as we can at least get to Jenkins Gym.
One break, chicken up next.
What department?
We don't talk again.
I think we can get there if we keep moving though.
Excuse me.
That's wrong.
I got it too. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present Finance Department. The achievements is that, we have new employee and accounts receivable position. The position of grants accountant was filled in internally, has been extremely productive. Our finance director resigned in October and the new hire, I think it was May. Okay. Came in May of this year, not too long ago. The most important thing of me coming on board was helping to push the annual financial audit. The fact that we were able to complete it timely within an extremely short period of time, about 5 weeks or so. And not only that, filed the AFR and the various reports at state level. And then we've also, your finance director, since coming on board, is now has completed her certification, and she's now a certified financial governmental officer.
Oh, wow.
So I now have my CFGO. That's just coming on board as of June. And that brings a higher level of, more verification to our department validity. So what we're doing is we're promoting cross-training and not limited to grant accounting, but that's our primary focus right now. We're cross-training throughout the entire department. I'm promoting continuing education. I've begun meeting with staff and, determining the additional training or education that we can pick up. The one thing I'd like us to do globally as a city, that all departments are actively using ADG, that there's no other softwares operating, that there's only ADG, that all information is going into that. And we're committed to going out to all departments and training and retraining all of the individuals that utilize ADG. We did accomplish some other things recently that we completed software programming, which is why you have the report that you have today for your budget. That was an effort of about a week of just software programming that we actually did. We're also going to perform, and it's not up there, but we're going to perform internal audits. I'm meeting with the city manager to, to let them know that I think we need to do some reviews internally. And we would start by the comments made from the audit report. We would ensure that whatever recommendations were made, that we have implemented it, and that would be evidenced by a report. Additionally, we're trying to start even now issuing monthly financial statements internally to our directors so that they know where they are at all times. And it will be accompanied with analysis, what areas of concern and projections. And this will be given monthly to our city manager. Quarterly, this will be issued to commissioners. We're also going to look at inventory audits, making sure that everything that we have listed is really here in the city. We're going to update financial policies. So that's what we're planning on doing for the year that we're living in, that we're coming to, 2023, 24. Oh, okay. The other. Oh, okay. So our current thing, I'm sorry?
Well, I'm checking with the batteries.
Oh, no, I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing my best. Current staffing list, that's who we have currently. Finance director, pension administrator, financial services supervisor. Jill is actually handling 2 components of finance department. She's the key person that we really need to do cross training because she'll be leaving soon. And so that's very, very critical for the department. We have our grant accountant, our accounts receivable, accounts payable clerks. We're proposing that the staffing stay as it is. However, we do want to kind of be alert to the fact that there may be a 3-month overlap. We were gonna budget for it. We did put it in, we decided to take it back out. But that would be a cost of about 30,000 if we do put it in the budget. So our operating costs has actually decreased by about 8,000, and our total budget, however, increased by about 12%. And that's it for finance.
How do we increase by 12?
Mainly because of personnel costs. Mhm. The fact that we now have a full-time finance director,
Okay,
primarily impacted.
well, so appreciate it, and thanks again for your, certified financial goal. Yeah, we, you know, and also your certified public accountant. I mean, we never.
Oh, yes, I'm a CPA.
Yeah, we never had that before here, so
Yes,
we appreciate
I'm happy to be here, to know.
everything you bring to the table.
Right, I mean, I think the most, if I had to say myself, what was our major achievement since I came on board, it was programming. The programming with of ADD that produced the reports that you have right there, which was a direct request from us, city manager.
I didn't do it, but you can see all the new graph.
So that was the major
Thank you,
achievement.
keep cutting them off.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Well, hold on.
Question?
I actually have a request,
Okay.
and I have a request. Can we do water and sewer tonight? They
They've been-
tend to
I
have,
think it's the
they
same.
tend to have an early rise, and they've been waiting patiently. But I know y'all are important, but I would love to try to get them out of the way.
You can still sit there and provide them support. Who's going first? Water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant? Dell?
Might be better if I cheat my all together.
Okay,
I would love to.
looks like Kayla's going first. Okay, so yes.
I'll bring that. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. All right. So our achievements for 2022 to 2023 is we are about 75% done with the granular activated carbon project. We're almost there. We are currently at 480 million gallons treated since October of last year. A lot of water.
Yeah.
There. Notable operational changes and goals for 23-24 is upgrading some of the equipment around the facility to increase the efficiency with the electricity cost on the rise. We're looking to upgrade some of the equipment to combat that. That'll also include modifying some of the existing equipment we have to enhance the treatment process with the new system coming in. The current operating budget is 470,000. The proposed total is 498. Your biggest cost is going to be electricity and chemicals, two of the main ones that's really out of our control. Electricity is obviously out of our control, and then chemicals have been steadily increasing for the last 2 years, specifically since COVID. Plant personnel. So we currently have me as the superintendent. We have 4 licensed operators and 2 mechanics. We are looking to add an assistant, a superintendent. We've never had that before, of any capacity. So your only daytime, Monday through Friday personnel there is me and your mechanic. So everyone else is on rotating shifts 24/7, 36 times. And then we have a water tower maintenance contract. They take care of the painting and inspection, things like that for the water tower, and our generator maintenance contracts to make sure they're always up to date and functioning. Our capital budget, this year is 541. Next year, we're looking at 525,000. Your biggest one coming up this year is gonna be the water tower needs a paint job. But we gotta get the old paint off first.
I thought that was already supposed to be in the works.
You probably remember it being
Yeah.
spoken about in your capital improvement plan.
So it
We've been
wasn't-
talking about it for a couple of years.
Okay.
It's gonna be a big project.
It's a huge project. There's everything that's up there has to come down. And then we have to have a plan, put it all back up. So it's proving to be, a little more challenging than we thought, working with all the different carriers and antennas and things like that. So getting them, temporary service while it's being, sandblasted and painted. So most of the proposed is just a carryover from that project being earlier this year.
You said it just need painting, what's the purpose of painting, what's the, significance? Is it just
Get
for?
a different color.
Looking at.
Tired of the blue, green?
Yeah.
How much, what's the cost associated, and then what's the, the significance of?
Sure, so the majority of the cost of that project is gonna be the containment of when it gets sandblasted, the removal of the old paint. So basically, they're gonna hang a shower curtain while they sandblast it, so that paint doesn't fly around all over the city, all over the cars. The paint is actually part of your contract
Okay.
that we've had for a number of years, so. Since the 80s, yeah.
Okay, so it's like a requirement.
Wait, was it before? Yeah.
Before my, but that's where all your cost is, and the last number we heard on that was about $250,000.
250.
To paint?
Down
Oh,
to contain,
she called it a shower curtain.
that's the way I can
Yes,
describe it.
they'll curtain off the whole thing. They have to blast it with media to prepare the surface, and it's gonna be primed and painted. And the primary purpose is to prevent corrosion and to extend the life of the elevated tower.
Yeah, so that tower is actually metal. As you know, water and metal, they don't love each other, and eventually. So, that's the purpose.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Any more questions?
She's not finished yet, okay?
Yeah. Okay, we've made it this far.
I think you're done. I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to keep you too long tonight. This is for the city of Palatka wastewater plant. We started replacing the generator at River Street. It was mandated by the hurricane. We're also looking forward to starting the upgrade at Lift Station 16 at St. John's and Ziegler.
That was Sunny Drive.
Maybe. So this coming year, we're looking forward to completing our digester project. It's a pretty good sized project, as you know, been a long time going on, did it for a very long time. Looking really forward to getting that new equipment online and have new digesters operational. Also looking to start the upgrade at 16 and complete that in this next fiscal year. That's going to support all the growth we have, some of the growth coming to the city on that area. Our bar screen is a mechanical bar screen. It's been down after a little while. It's 40 years old. It needs a complete rebuild. Looking forward to getting that done as well. To improve the treatment capacity, treatment of the wastewater plant. Our current budget was $672,000. It's a slight increase due to like chemicals and equipment maintenance is going up. All parts are getting more expensive, harder to get, but mainly it's the chemical increases. We only want to change one thing on staffing. We have moved a mechanic to an assistant. There's a mechanic and lead mechanic to an assistant superintendent role this past year. I need to fill that last mechanic spot back to 4 mechanics. One of the reasons we made that move is the succession plan, because I'm old, I'm on my way out. So I really need that 4th mechanic. When hurricanes get here, you know, I need two-man crews going out to support the lift stations. We have a lot of generators put in lift stations over the last few years, and I appreciate that so much. We still have 32 that does not have backup power, that we have to manually go out and pump that.
32 lift stations
Yes,
that don't have backup.
right. We have us for backup power, pumps and generators. We go out and literally pump down.
Wow, oh, wow, okay.
So we're working on getting more generators this year. Managed work on some grants for some more.
Right.
How much does a generator cost per lift station? Or how does
Depends on the
it?
size of the station. It could be.
What's the one
40,000.
what's the one, I think it's, if you're going up, is it Hudson? All the way to the end, like in the rolling hill area? Cause I often see it, that being pumped out like all the time.
That is one of the ones we have earmarked for the next generator with the next grant program. That would probably be roughly about $55,000.
We'll only get through all of it.
It was fun.
But the question is that, if those pumps are done, then that could be, environmental kind of stuff going on, right?
Yes, sir.
And so when your human resources might not be able to get those type of things, I think it'll probably be critical that we look at making sure that we get what's needed, because we do have a lot of hurricanes. And then they're, like I said, they're old, pumps are old. So generators are old, so we need to make sure that we look at those, we got funds somewhere.
We've only had, like I said, I've been here for a long time. We've only had 1 year where we had 95% loss of power on all the stations.
Yeah.
Usually we lose some and we have some. Right. That's important of the 4 people, 4 mechanics. I can send 2 over here, 2 over the other side. It was communication. We keep everything pumped down. We were very fortunate not to have any spills except for the major one on River Street when that lift station failed. Other than that, the smaller stations, we've had a pretty good record of keeping them pumping in the right direction.
Brian and his staff do a really good job of helping prioritize what stations we go to first. Obviously, they take into consideration how many people it services,
Yeah.
the amount of flow to the station, you know, redundancy, does it have backup pumping capability and backup power capability. So I think that they've done a great job helping Andy and the rest of us kind of prioritize which ones to go after. And optimistic this time around, it looks like FEMA has changed their tune and they're going to allow us to go after portable generators and pumps. Historically, they just wanted permanent. So I think we're increasing our ask to have some additional within the mobilized stations as needed.
That's a great benefit. Like I said, stationary, we can't move them portable, we can take to
Right.
the most critical need.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
No. Well, would it be better for me to keep everything together? I got some departmental things to do.
I prefer to do water and sewer at the same time to talk about the other, if that's okay with the commission. I think if anybody could jump around on presentations and keep track of it, you could, right?
That's okay.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for inviting me to this presentation. We think, this is for the Public Works Utilities Department. Before we get into it, I'd like to explain that across the entire Public Works Department, we've got some initiatives that we're trying to enact that affect the Utilities Department as well, which is trying to outline a career progression plan, or yes, add some depth to that for our staff to give them, I guess, a goal to work towards, and also outlining some training that allows us to invest in our staff and get a higher return from them. I think it's important to help with morale and turnover. It's something that, again, we're prioritizing across all departments. Another part of that is also looking into reporting some of our performance indicators for you. It's been noted several times, and I attempted to do that earlier this year with a couple quarterly reports and then at the beginning of the year report. Unfortunately, we got into the weeds a little bit with it, but that's something that we want to add is depth from the department heads underneath me to report that to you guys, so you can see the health of the organization and really gauge the effectiveness of the decisions that you're actually looking at making right now. Every dollar needs to be accounted for, in my opinion. And where are we and what are we doing and how well are we doing it are the questions that we want to answer for you and the public. But accomplishments this year, we've assisted, we've got an inspector that goes out with a lot of the contractors and looks at the work and verifies any conflicts, and just trying to ensure the quality of the work that's delivered to you guys and to the city as a whole, to make sure that that's acceptable. Also to verify that it's something that matches the plans and it meets our maintenance standards. Once we accept that, we have to live with it. And sometimes, decisions are made without consultation. We don't want that. We always want to offer ourselves as a resource, not only to the vendors, but as an area for the citizenry and administration to bounce ideas off of. Maybe there's a better way. And by being in the field a little bit more, that's something that we can assist with and trying to create some positive changes if we're set up for that. That downtown project was over 26 blocks. That's a significant amount of oversight. And every day someone has to be there making sure the connections are done well and documented. We've completed several major emergency repairs to water main breaks. There's some pictures of our guys above their heads actually recently with some main breaks. Again, that's something that we pride ourselves in being able to have a very quick response time and doing that safely. Actually, one of our staffing requests of the department is specifically to address responses and safety. But our major area right now that we want to focus on is, just focusing on getting safely out to our jobs and reassessing kind of our assets for future planning and really replacement. So you'll see that in our budget as well. Again, kind of targeting on the previously mentioned KPIs, again, we just want to document through our work order system to you for reporting. So we've expanded our use of the iWorks work order system. Utilities has always been kind of the forerunner within the Public Works Department, but even improving that, getting our inventory system transferred from one computer within the warehouse that basically if it was struck by lightning, we would lose everything into iWorks. It's been kind of a pivotal role change for us that allows us to maintain our quantities. We run low, we can get a notification of when to order parts. We want to, similarly with the streets department, have a remaining service like report stating areas that we want to focus on, approaching grant funding in the future and what can we use to augment capital replacements as well. And potentially highlight areas that we get, if we get a significant amount of leaks in an area, it's something to look at for. Just again, assessing the health of our assets. And going back to that career progression plan, the utilities department, just as an example, has licensure similar to the wastewater plant or the water plant, the 1, 2, and 3. Right now we have a 1 and a 2 position and a superintendent. I'm sorry, 1 and a 3. We missed the 2. So we're just looking to correct that and outline what that means for our staff to accommodate that. If they want to advance themselves and are driven to complete that training, that's something we want to offer them. That's something that we also want to reward. Because that plays into our succession, right? Obviously, we've got some senior staff here that, God, if I could download something from someone's brand, I would do it right away. But it comes with identifying people who are capable of taking in that information and then, letting them carry the torch forward. Our operating budget this year is $223,000. We're increasing that to $73,300 as a request. Some of that increases consumables. Again, the cost of our parts has gone up. Lead times on those have gone up. Procurement tends to be extended, we might have a 6 to 8 month lead time from a foundry just for a rig and cover. So we're looking at increasing purchase amounts to offset, potentially running out of something in the middle of a long procurement period. Professional services to address some of our surveys or cameras. Right now, we don't really have a super functional camera, so if we can't get one approved in next year, we need to look at paying someone else to be able to view our systems. We do have a break. As an example, right now on St. John's Avenue, there is a lateral that is about 13 feet down, and we could camera, but there's a brick stuck in there, so we've got to pay a significant amount of money to excavate St. John's Avenue and get the brick removed and then repair the line. It's a fragile line, so we know when we excavate it, it'll have to be completely replaced. It's only about 8 feet of pipe, but it's a extensive repair and alteration of the road. Small tools and types of materials, we make a lot of cuts. We want to be able to pay someone to make those repairs for us in a timely manner and in the quantities that we need. Staffing request this year is just for one full-time trainee position and someone we can bring in. Right now, we don't have the ability to fully staff all of our crews the way we would like to when we respond to, like, say, a sewer call. You never go in alone. The dangers of confined spaces in there, you could lose someone very quickly. So what that means is if we have any of those where they have to open a structure, it's usually 2 crews or, 1 person in another truck. And it just eats up a lot of our resources when on the other side of town, we've got a leak or a main break or a tap that we can't do or something like that. So that allows us to have a little bit more freedom and the ability for us to respond. Also, it maintains a safety level. Just that 1 crew can go out and assess. And if we need to pull in more, obviously we'll, but it just, again, that safety is very important of never having 1 person out there. It also augments our ability to complete training. Right now, our staffing levels at the point where if we have even someone call out sick, it's very difficult to have someone available to run the back truck, run the backhoe down there and the trucks out there to get all the tools on site. So, we've got to get more CDL certified or licensed people on board, and that process takes several weeks. Right now, we're having them do that on overtime on the weekends for training, but it's something we've identified as extremely important for our department, and so we would benefit greatly from having that additional personnel. Our capital budget this year is $243,000 that was expended. We replaced 1 backhoe. I'm sorry, there's screamers there. 1 Dodge Dakota and 1 Ford Ranger were replaced as well. So we had 2 pickup trucks replaced and then the backhoe as well. I think this is one of those things that, hasn't really been discussed much, and that is the age of our fleet. And again, going across the board for Public Works, the average Public Works fleet vehicle is about 11 years old. That takes us out of that prime period where we can get a return on our vehicle for auction and when we start seeing increased maintenance costs for those vehicles. So in an effort to reduce the average life, we were requesting to allocate a small amount of money based on a 10-year replacement date starting today. So within 10 years, you would see every vehicle begin replaced in small portions every year. Again, you've got some trucks that are out there from the 80s that have been rolling around, and you've got some trucks that are in the 2000s that are rolling around. They've got reliability issues, obviously, but it's something that's important. Again, when you purchase a $650,000 vac truck, you've got to have a replacement plan for that in the future. And to date, we have not set aside funding for that. It's something that, it's important that piece of equipment is integral to our operation. And if we don't have a replacement for it, and it goes down, we've got to lease it. It's extremely expensive to do that. And so, again, having that plan is important to us. We had outlined there's a fiscal sustainability plan, I believe, that was done in 2017. In that plan, they'd outlined a rough amount that needed to be in reserves for major repairs or for capital replacements. That number was about $3 million in 2017. We've had $0 in that since then. And we've requested to put in $1 million to give us a small portion of that. Obviously, we've got a lot of grant funding coming on, but those projects don't cover every area in the city. There's enclaves that we need to focus on as well. We've got out-of-year planning that this would allow us to accomplish. Additionally, we actively requested improvement money for sanitary structure and lining or for replacement. We've got a significant amount of brick structures that are letting in a lot of infiltration. From the numbers that we get from the water plants or from the sewage treatment plant, a lot of that is just groundwater or rainwater that's coming into our sanitary system. And again, we've been doing really good with grant funding, but identifying things that we can't get in grant funding, certain neighborhoods or certain structures that need to be done is something that we would like to be able to do with that remaining service life assessment. And then being able to procure those services through a vendor. Pipeline inspection system replacement. So that $126,000 is actually for a tractor camera. It can be about 80 pounds. That's what we use to inspect the inside of our pipes. Right now, that system is about 20 years old. It's no longer supported by the manufacturer. The controller that we have does not allow us to pan or tilt or rotate the camera. We only have a forward-facing view. So it's very difficult to actually look inside of our pipes. So when we get a lateral, I think at one point they were strapping a flashlight to the front of the thing just to see. It's something that we really do need to replace. Again, we can contract this out, but our response time, that we need it for is pretty urgent, such as the Larimer today. We had a backflow event over the weekend to where if we could camera it, we can see the obstruction of the pipe, we can locate where it is, and we can make a surgical cut rather than opening up the entire right of way or the street or something like that. Those are kind of really critical items in our toolbox that we use to assess and repair our asset. I believe in discussions, the fire patrol roller and equipment trailer, they may be cut, but the request was essentially to augment, in addition with the streets department, our ability to patch in-house our utility cuts and to make, roadway repairs with the adequate level of compaction. It's something that, when you have a water line breaks, it's saturated ground, but, I think we can all attest to the quality of the cold patching. That's not a permanent repair. And if we're going to put the effort into doing it, I don't see a point in doing it twice. If we can do a proper repair with hot mix that's to the level of an industry standard that we would pay for, we can do it. But again, these are just requests. They're definitely up on the table for discussion. We've also included, and I believe that that number of $159,896.33 was included in the capital outlay, but since it's been moved to a debt service line for the public works facilities proposed loan to account for the deficit in construction costs for that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I got one thing real quick. I mean, you mentioned something about the our system and the information that you're putting into the system. That system, is it in the cloud or is it on premise?
I believe it is stored within the cloud. We do have the ability to pull those records and reports to keep them, but we want to keep it offsite. I can tell you right now, before this meeting, my computer died. So I was unable to do anything for the last 2 hours of the day regarding work order management. So that's not a risk we want to take. Again, that was why we pushed so hard to get our inventory system off of the one computer in the warehouse that subject to lightning strikes and water leaks, into the hour system, not only for reference, but also for data safety.
Right. And that's key, because we got our IT budget line or whatever. We need to kind of maybe talk about that, because there's a number of different things that we really need to be focusing on. And again, like you say, if you lose that information from that system, restoration or recovery of data can be very, very expensive. Sometimes you just can't get it back depending on what state it's in. And we gotta certainly be looking at, a disaster recovery plan. We need to be looking at an incident response plan. We also need to be looking at a business continuity plan. So all of those things need to be incorporated in terms of how we operate and do our business. So, but again, I picked up on what you said about if the lightning struck your system, what that would mean to you. We got to look in and see what our critical data is. When we need to start making sure that we know how, if we do lose data, whether it's through a hurricane or through hacking, we need to be able to know how to restore that data, recovery points, and among other things. So I appreciate that, but that's not your area. It's one of the points.
Any other
We just spoke in
questions?
a foreign language, but we understood it.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
You gotta
But we don't- no, no,
you gotta talk about that, you
No,
know.
no, I understand, no,
That's
you
right.
understand, that's
Well, no,
all.
all these departments are very, very important, but if you don't have access to the information, you can't make a decision. We just need. Oh, no.
We want you to talk about, read and understand all that language. That was your language.
Well, because it's some other things as it relates to when you have a cybersecurity attack and different things, and you got to report now to the state of Florida. You got a certain time period that you have to report, and there's other things, but I don't want to keep going because we got a short time. I mean, we gotta get finished with this, but we will be coming back and revisit that.
Thank you.
Yes,
Any other
sir.
questions?
I just want to make certain as I look at that, the priority repair and replacement fund, that also covers the streets, road, what?
This is for utilities, so anything under the streets, and I'm assuming if we have to cut the street to it within that project, we're gonna cut it. But there's a significant amount, again, of the water lines, that is, if you were to look at the asset value, which I do not remember off the top of my head, that is a very small portion of the total value. And again, it's just something you carry in your back pocket. If we've got a rainy day, we don't need grant funding or something like that to address a water line issue and future planning, we need to be able to invest in that are required.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had one question on the 40 to 60,000 on the patching, and I thought we had moved the budget up to
That's
eight.
in a different budget.
Okay,
That's why I asked. about.
right.
Yeah, that's one.
We'll cover that in better place in our, yeah.
So why wouldn't, so you're not covering streets at there?
No, this is.
That's why he asked.
Related to just.
I just saw that patching and hot mix.
Me too, that's why I went ahead and.
Yeah, they've got some patching of the.
Okay.
When they cut up your beautiful streets.
Okay,
Never just pay, then we cost of see.
Don't say that.
You want to put it back the right way.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think COVID actually may be dead. Oh, no, maybe not, maybe it's been on.
That's regards. to-
So we are at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
the hard stop.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Well, how many more we got?
Said cut, right?
We got.
Right.
Let's see him next time.
He's got.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh,
He said, make sure that we cover Jenkins tonight. Can we cover
yeah.
Jenkins?
so that's.
Yeah, when Eddie did his trial run, it only took him an hour and 30 minutes.
Y'all know better than that.
Okay.
Excuse me, man. Jenkins is not my.
Huh?
Jenkins is not my first lap.
Yes, it is. Tonight it is.
They changed it.
That was the request that we.
Mr. Campbell just requested, you want to speak about Jenkins.
I've been rehearsing in the mirror for about.
Well, you better go, you got. Why you proposing no material and not.
We got the presentation on that.
Oh, no, no. So we will recover the other departments at another time.
Well, they can get through Jenkins and they say.
No, we're not.
Jenkins, we.
We're not gonna say.
You're losing them, so I think we'll stick with just Jenkins.
He freaking out me.
I was lost a long time ago. Trying to help me out, next slide.
We're getting tired now. Everybody's tired.
Well, first of all, let me thank y'all, Mayor, just Assistant City Manager, and everybody let me do the presentation. I didn't bring a guest speaker like that, but the record did, so I'm going to be there. So here we go. The Chivas and Jenkins, and as y'all know, the Jenkins facility is still a development program project that we're trying to get up and running. But what we have done in the 22, 23, clean up the facility from vandalism, as y'all know, we had some break-ins and then they do like some damage to the thing. But we have got it now pretty much cleaned up as much as we can, besides getting stuff done. We have utilized the parking lot for food distribution, farm share and 76. And a couple more have done a lot of stuff in the parking lot to get away food to the community in that area. We're hosting outdoor sports events and I acquired an MOU for use of the vacuum from the school board. We know the soccer program and going on in the back facility, and it's good attendance, and we have a commissioner, that's actually one of our coaches, so he can give you a little bit of insight. The MOUs for the backfield, as you know, we acquired the building, we didn't have the backfield, so we only had the gymnasium to the sidewalk back there, and then everything else belongs to the school. Now, we do have a 1-year handshake agreement with the school, that we can utilize the facility of the backfield, as long as we keep up the maintenance and stuff. Law enforcement active shooter drills, we have had a couple of opportunities where the sheriff department has came in there and utilized it to do active shooter drills drills, and also the police, Palatka Police Department have done that. Next slide.
The police department did what?
Active drills. Utilize the building for drills.
Active shooter.
Active shooter drills.
Oh, you know what that man was saying.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah. Note of operation change the goal to 23, 24. Open the facility to the public operation. We're looking at trying to have a 10-hour day operation, 10 to 8 p.m. Offer indoor sporting events and programs, which we have a facility for basketball and other things inside the gymnasium. Name the facilities. I know a couple of my presentations and a couple of my reports I've sent you has a name on it, but we haven't officially gave that facility a name. So I would like to get one so we start promoting, opening up, we have the name that y'all want it to be. Complete the interior and exterior renovation. As we know, the first bid out for the renovation didn't come back any bidder. I think Dale can probably give you more information, but they were resubmitted with a different process for this bidding, and hopefully we get some bids on that. Office facility rentals, we haven't opened that conversation since our last director says stand down and y'all make decide how y'all want to utilize space. But we do have several people that are looking to rent the facility if we want to go that route. Increase outdoor sporting programs. Next slide. Current operation is 64,000, and that's just the building itself of 20,000 square foot building. The maintenance of the AC not working as great, and then another thing that happened, the utility expenses are a little high. Proposed budget for 23-24. Open for access facility for the public, increase operation hours, offer weekend programs, coordinate rotating resources for citizen assistance, finalize interior repairs and upgrades. That's going to be the key, depending on how y'all want to move forward with the interior repairs. Because the outlet that I gave a couple months ago had some different things, but since talking to the assistant city manager, acting city manager, we have came up with some other ideas that y'all might want to do. The next slide. Particularly for the multi-purpose room, that's a facility, that's a room on the right side of the building that I want to make it's two rooms now. I want to make it one room capability where we have a coordinating down the middle of it. We use that for our team programs and our dancing facilities. The session stand installation and operation at the part of the gym. Next slide, sir. All right. Current staffing right now is Reno Fails, my recreation coordinator. He would be the one that houses myself, and Aaron Hughes would be housed over there beside the code enforcement, of course, in the gym personnel recreation side of the house. That would be the staff. David Green and Crystal will be over there too, but they'll be in the code enforcement department. Contract services, we got Safe Trust Security, Comcast, but Unified, once we get up and running, once we get up and running, it'll replace Comcast. Proposed staffing, one full-time cleaning / site coordinator staff. That's 20,000 square foot building. One person, a cleaning service or cleaning crew can clean all the city buildings and that one building, expect to do a good job. When we open up and we get the attendance that we want, it's gonna need deep cleaning at least 2 or 3 days a week, and then just general cleaning other days. And then also that cleaning position can offset site coordinating for programs that we have, what's happening with staff to have the ratio that we need to cover when we have a lot of kids. Including contract services would be again Safe Touch and Unified once we get that up and running, and then Comcast kind of go away. Next slide. All right. Capital budget, like I said, we have a major piece of money allocated to do a lot of renovations to that building, so I really can't tell you what it's gonna need until that's done. So I'm just really gonna hopefully that everything in place when we finish the renovation And then maybe I come back next year with a different idea of what we need to get in place during this renovation now.
Any questions? Mr. Cutler, about Jason?
I have a question with regards to the staffing. Is there a proposed, because with Mr. Reno's position, he can't do his position by himself and effectively have program and have worked with him this past couple of weeks with the soccer, like he's stretched thin, like, is there a proposed in this particular budget to bring some, I see the part-time staff, but that's not a part-time job.
So see, and that's, in the whole presentation, I asked for 5 assistant units to kind of cross-train both of them. But that, you would get a part-time staff in recreation, and in the Jenkins facility itself, you're gonna need about 3 to 4 bodies over there as a recreation staff to make sure we maintain that. And that part-time, that cleaner, part-time site person will help Reno too. So Reno will actually get 2 people to help for one job.
What do those numbers look like? You say they're in the decision unit?
Yes, the part-time and they part-time is for 25 hours a week. We had it at right at 20,000 and some change. I give you that number once I can pull it up to the amount of slide.
Together, very strongly.
Yeah. 20,000, 280,000, 280. And there will be no benefit for part-time.
So the cleaning staff,
Without paying for that with it.
So this, oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
well, I mean, it's saying $31,000 for cleaning staff.
But that was a full-time position. Right now, I was asking for part-time, but a commissioner told me one time, shoot for the stars and sell for the moon. So I went ahead and asked for full-time. Whatever I started doing that. I think Madeira, go out there and everything, go big. So
Well, I know that the schools itself, I think that custodial staff, they have, like shift, they have some that, I mean, you guys can answer this, y'all work at school. They have a shift that works in the morning, that's there while staff is there, and then another group come in in the evenings to clean up, like after the school. And I don't know if those are part-time.
You know, we're talking about high school, the high school, the high school, they have like
It's
a
overlap.
overlap shift.
All.
Yeah, all.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
I just thought it was most,
Yeah, so,
They're gonna, all staff is gonna be there doing the student
At some
contact
point.
time. And then students will leave, you'll have extended time, maybe 3 hours or 2 hours after all faculty and staff leave.
right, so that's what I'm saying, so after they, I don't know, but I think I asked specifically, what will Beacons Middle School actually look like as far as what we're gonna do. And I heard you volley back to us, but that's your part. And I really just would like to see more of a clear of what you want it to be.
So to answer.
What would you want it to be, Mr. Cutright?
I can tell you
You
because
can-
we've had the conversation.
With respect, Madam Mayor,
Yes, you can finish.
and I'm talking to, I'm talking to him. You out of order. You out of order, Kim.
So to answer your question, Commissioner Bill, I mean, my goal, if we had it the way I wanted to be, to build a total community center. But I do understand the need of finding housing and space for some other departments. I do understand it. So my sharing or partnership with it is the gymnasium, the multipurpose center, the computer room, the staffing office, and the concession stand is my main goal to make sure we keep. If we had the partnership with anybody, like I was telling the acting city manager here, I would love a partnership with first responders. Because any grant we try to get in the future, that will go a long way with helping us get that grant with having the agency of first responder like law enforcement, fire department, and some of that nature. The setback that I have with partnering with public works is that now you're looking at a situation where you have level 1 or non-level 1 or level 2 background check employees around kids. And that's gonna be cause issue. And I know we can try to block off something, but they're still gonna be within that fee rating instead. It's still gonna cause a concern and put us in a liability situation.
Still, I would like to just know what we got over there. And when are you guys expecting to move over and be operable?
Well, the wait on some equipment from the IT department is gonna go over there and make sure we're connected where we can kind of listen and hear from y'all on the side of the ball service wise for working. We also are looking at leads, taking glass coming over this week to install the glass from the vandalism that was broken up there. And then we're waiting with the school board to make sure the connectivity with the alarm system is working good. They had a part they had to order, and hopefully by end of this week we have that in. So my projected date is probably September 1 when I want to kind of move over there.
September. To go back to commission, I mean. Directly, right.
To go to my point of what I was trying to make, the information that he has provided us has already been established. The direction in which he is looking for is how we want to proceed and move forward. My question is, how do we bring it back to us to give him, because he stated that we had the discussion of what we desire. He has given us the conversation of what he desired on multiple occasions. How do we now come to a consensus as to what it is that we want to do? Keep hearing him saying the same thing over and over is very much redundant. We now have to ask. So I wasn't out of order in my thing. It wasn't just what you wanted to hear.
You cannot answer a question for him that I'm asking him directly. So you are out of line.
Thank you, we've gone through that, though, thank you. So any other questions?
I got a comment.
Commissioner Ward has a question.
And the reason I have my comment, and it's good that we also know what the recreation department would like to have. But again, I had asked that the city manager look at all of our facilities and see how we can best utilize those facilities and meet the needs of our staff. We have talked about the public works. I mean, we'll jump around. Public works,
Right.
say the annex building, the police department, are all these different things. So I just said, look at all the facilities and see how we can best meet the needs of our staff. And that's why I say, I asked Director Cutright, okay, well, hey, we appreciate his vision for the facility. But at the same time, I think we need to really consider how we can best utilize it without going out spending millions of dollars and we're not meeting the needs of our staff.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any field? Unnatural stopping, full call to this meeting at this point. Oh,
You got about half of them done. So
that's progress.
our next budget workshop is on the 17th. At 2:30, you have the CRA budget workshop. However, we have a very light, almost non-existent CRA meeting agenda on Monday. So we are attempting to put your budget discussion on that meeting, so you can get it out of the way. Maybe free up some time on the 17th to get through this. But that does not leave Ms. Cartier or I a lot of time to revise the budget after the 17th.
Oh, wow. So we're gonna be,
Ready.
is there anything that y'all like to recommend to us? So since you don't have a lot of time between the next meeting and when you need to take out for the final budget,
Thank you, Chairman.
was there a recommendation that do we need to meet again, like within how many every days?
Well, I would just tell you the second budget workshop on the 17th was intended for us to present to you a revised second draft version.
Right.
At this point, we would not be able to do that because we haven't got through the entirety of the budget. So, and the only other option is to meet again this week or early next week, but that's a lot of meetings.
How many more do we have? Which one do we have?
There
How
will be
many
in
more
Orlando.
presentations?
How many more? From where we are right now?
The ones of substance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, we couldn't do it. Right?
There's a couple other ones that, I have a report on that would take less than 2 minutes each. There's not a lot of notable changes.
So, what's the pleasure of the board?
I mean, if you-
And to meet this week, we're all going to be heading to that conference.
Yeah,
There's really no opportunity this week to meet unless we meet like tomorrow, Wednesday. So, or tomorrow, Wednesday.
Right.
I'm just, so there really isn't the
There's no-
at that point. Yes.
Are you okay if we work with Ms. Cardy to make some of the necessary suggested changes. And as the remaining department heads make their presentations, I can tell you if that item is proposed as a cut or not, and you could provide us input. I'm more concerned about the time after the 17th and being able to turn around a final product in time for the first public hearing in September.
We can do it. I just want you to know.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's what we want to hear.
I got you.
You got the tremble in your boots.
Great.
Well, just putting a notice, CRA meeting on Monday. We're going to try and get through the budget discussion and free up some more time next Thursday. I hope that's agreeable. It's packaged ready. I think the agenda packet will go out sometime tomorrow.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you.